Hello and welcome. I hope you all enjoy tonight's cryptid horror stories. Grootsiang Horror. Chapter 1. The Diamond Hunters. The Richtersveld was not a place for the weak. It was a desert of stone and scrub, of red rock and blue sky, where the heat could kill you in hours and the cold could kill you in minutes. It was the oldest desert in the world, a landscape that had existed since before humans walked upright, and it kept its secrets close. I was there for the diamonds. We all were. 12 of us, a company of fortune hunters and geologists and local guides, drawn by rumors of a seam that ran deep into the earth, a vein of gems that could make us all rich beyond dreaming. We had permits technically. We had equipment barely. We had more desperation than sense, which is what brought us to the Wonder Hole. My name is David Chen. I was the geologist, the one who knew rocks, who could read the strata like other men read newspapers. I had a PhD from MIT, a mountain of debt, and a gambling problem that had brought me to this God-forsaken corner of South Africa. I was 34 years old, and I thought I knew what I was doing. I was wrong. The expedition was led by Victor Cross, a South African Afrikaner who had made and lost 3 fortunes in his 50-odd years. He was big, loud, violent when necessary, and he had the kind of charisma that made you want to follow him even when you knew it was a bad idea. He had heard the stories about the Wonder Hole, the tales that the local Nama people told about the great snake that guarded the entrance to the underworld. Superstition, he had said when we first gathered in Cape Town. Bushman stories to keep people away from the good sights. There's a reason that area hasn't been properly mined. The locals scared everyone off. But we're not superstitious, are we? No one had answered. We were all superstitious in our own ways, but we were also desperate. The global diamond market had collapsed. Synthetic stones were flooding the market, and legitimate mining operations were closing left and right. This was our last chance, our Hail Mary pass at fortune. The team was a mixed bag. There was Sarah Okonkwo, a Nigerian mineralogist who had been blacklisted from every major corporation for exposing safety violations. There were the Peterson brothers, Eric and Hans, Swedish adrenaline junkies who had made their names base jumping into active volcanoes. There was Dr. Amos Molf, a South African archaeologist who claimed to have studied the indigenous legends and knew how to pacify the local spirits. There were 6 local laborers, Jacob, Moses, Thomas, Peter, Samuel, and Johans, hired for muscle and local knowledge, paid a fraction of what the professionals were making. And then there was me, David Chen, the rock doctor, the man who could tell you exactly how old a stone was and exactly how much it was worth. We drove into the Richtersveld in a convoy of 4-wheel drive trucks, loaded with gear and supplies and the kind of hope that borders on desperation. The landscape swallowed us, vast and empty and ancient, and I felt small in a way I never had before. The Nama call this place the place of great noise, Dr. Molf said, on the 3rd day of driving. They say the earth itself is angry here. Angry how? Sarah asked. They say it swallows those who disturb it, that it devours the greedy and the proud. Charming, Eric Peterson said, just what I wanted to hear. Legends, Victor said dismissively, pay no attention. But I saw the way he gripped the steering wheel, the tension in his shoulders. He was scared too, though he'd never admit it. We reached the Wonder Hole on the 5th day, following coordinates that Victor had obtained from a source he wouldn't name. It was exactly as described, a black maw in the red rock, 20 feet across, descending into darkness. The air around it was strange, cool despite the desert heat, and carried a smell that I couldn't identify. Something old, something alive. My God, Sarah breathed, standing at the edge. Look at the walls. I looked. The walls were smooth, polished, as if by centuries of something sliding past. They weren't natural. They had been shaped, worn, used. Water, I said. Underground river must have carved this over millennia. That smooth? Hans asked. Water doesn't make surfaces that smooth. Maybe high pressure, maybe chemical composition. Or maybe something else, Dr. Molf said quietly. Something that moved through here, something big. Victor laughed, too loud, too forced. Bushman stories, Amos. Come on, let's set up camp. We camped 50 yards from the hole, on a flat shelf of rock that offered some shelter from the wind. The local men, Jacob, Moses, and the others, refused to get closer than 100 yards. They set up their tents far from the main camp, muttering in Nama and casting fearful glances at the hole. They're spooked, I said to Victor. They're paid to work, not to believe in fairy tales. Tomorrow we go down. Go down into the hole. That's why we're here, David. The diamonds are down there, I can feel it. I wanted to argue, to point out the dangers, the instability, the unknown. But I was being paid to find rocks, not to make safety assessments. I kept my mouth shut and prepared my gear. That night around the fire, Dr. Molf told us more about the legends. The Grootsiang, he said, his voice low. The great snake. According to the stories, it was created by the gods in the beginning of the world before they knew what they were doing. They gave it too much strength, too much cunning, too much power. When they realized their mistake, they tried to destroy it, but it was too strong. So they split it instead. They made the first elephants from its head and the first snakes from its body. And what was left? Sarah asked. The Grootsiang itself, the original. It escaped into the deep places, into the earth, and it waits there still, guarding its treasure, guarding the entrance to the underworld. And this hole, I asked, this is where it lives. This is where it hunts, where it waits for the greedy to come to it. It's just a story, Victor said, a legend to scare children. Legends come from somewhere, Dr. Molf said. Every myth has a root in truth. The truth is that there's a diamond seam down there, and I'm going to find it. Anyone who wants to come with me is welcome. Anyone who wants to stay here and tell stories can do that too. He stood up, went to his tent, and the meeting broke up. But I noticed that no one rushed to volunteer for the descent. We all went to bed that night with the weight of the legend on our chests. I didn't sleep well. The desert was loud at night, full of sounds I couldn't identify, the wind, the rocks shifting, something else that might have been the earth itself breathing. And twice, I thought I heard something from the direction of the hole. A sound like stones grinding together, like something moving in the deep. In the morning, we prepared for the descent. Chapter 2: The Wonder Hole. The equipment we had for the descent was good, I'll give Victor that. He had spared no expense on ropes and harnesses and breathing apparatus. We were going to rappel into the hole, explore the upper chambers, and see if the diamond seam was accessible. The team for the descent was me, Victor, Sarah, and the Peterson brothers. Dr. Molf wanted to come, but Victor refused. We need someone up top, he said. Someone to monitor communications. Dr. Molf didn't argue. I think he was relieved. The local men watched us prepare, their faces masks of fear and resignation. Jacob, the oldest, approached me as I was checking my harness. Don't go, he said, his voice low. It's not worth it. The diamonds are cursed. Everything that comes from that place is cursed. It's just superstition, Jacob. Is it? He looked at the hole, at the darkness. My grandfather saw it, the Grootsiang. He was a boy hunting in the hills and he saw it come out of the earth. It took his brother, swallowed him whole. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry, be smart, turn back. I can't. He shook his head, turned away. Then may God have mercy on you, because the Grootsiang will not. I pushed his warning from my mind, focused on the task. We were professionals, scientists, adventurers. We didn't believe in curses. We rigged the ropes at the edge of the hole, anchoring them to massive boulders that had sat undisturbed for millennia. Victor went first, sliding over the edge, descending into darkness. His voice came back through the radio, echoing strangely. I'm at 50 meters. Walls are smooth like glass, no sign of diamonds yet. Copy, I said. Continue descent. Sarah went next, then Hans, then Eric. I was last, the anchor point, the safety backup. I watched them disappear one by one, their headlamps becoming stars in the darkness, and then I followed. The descent was terrifying. The walls were indeed smooth, polished, and they reflected my headlamp in ways that made me dizzy. I felt like I was falling into a mirror, into an infinite regress of light and dark. At 100 meters, Victor reported. The tunnel is widening, I can see something ahead. What is it? I asked. A chamber, large, I'm going to enter. Wait for us. I'm going in. I cursed, descended faster. The rope vibrated with my movement, and I felt the sweat on my palms making the nylon slick. When I reached the chamber, I understood why Victor had rushed in. It was vast, cathedral-like, the ceiling lost in darkness above. And the walls were covered in gems. Diamonds, yes, but also emeralds, rubies, sapphires, stones I couldn't identify. They were embedded in the rock, millions of them, glittering in our headlamps like stars. My God, Sarah breathed. There's a fortune here, billions. Trillions, Victor corrected. This is it. This is the mother lode. The Peterson brothers were already moving along the walls, prying at the stones, filling their packs. I wanted to warn them, to tell them to be careful, but I was transfixed by the beauty of it. The chamber was a natural wonder, a geological impossibility, and it was filled with treasure beyond counting. How, I asked, how did this form? Volcanic activity, Victor said. Pressure, time, the usual suspects, just more. More than possible. Clearly not impossible, since we're looking at it. We spent an hour in the chamber, collecting samples, photographing, dreaming of the wealth we had found. And then, just as I was beginning to relax, just as I was beginning to believe that maybe this would be okay, the sound came. It was like nothing I had ever heard. A rumbling, a grinding, like the earth itself was shifting. It came from below, from deeper in the cave system, and it was getting closer. What is that? Sarah asked, her voice trembling. Earthquake, Hans suggested. No, I said, that's something else. Get back to the ropes, Victor ordered. Everyone move. We ran, the sound growing louder, the ground beginning to shake. The chamber seemed to contract, the walls closing in, and I felt a primal fear that went beyond reason. Eric was the fastest, reaching the ropes first, beginning his ascent. Hans was behind him, then Sarah, then Victor. I was last, my pack full of samples, my legs pumping. The thing emerged from the darkness below. It was the Grootsiang, the great snake, the monster from the legends. It was massive, impossibly massive, its body filling the tunnel we had descended through, scales black as obsidian, each one the size of a dinner plate. And the head. The head was elephantine but twisted, wrong. The ears were too large, tattered like sails. The trunk was elongated, serpentine, lined with suckers like a squid's tentacle. The eyes, there were too many of them clustered around the trunk, each one glowing with a faint luminescence. And the mouth. The mouth opened, jaw unhinging like a snake's, revealing rows of teeth that weren't teeth at all but tusks, each one curved and sharp as a blade. Climb, Victor screamed, climb. We climbed, frantic, desperate. The Grootsiang struck, its trunk whipping out, catching Hans Peterson just as he was reaching for the rope. The trunk wrapped around him, lifted him, and I saw his face, his eyes wide with terror, his mouth open in a scream I couldn't hear. Then the mouth closed, and Hans Peterson was gone, swallowed whole, his body disappearing into that impossible gullet. Hans, Eric screamed, his brother's name echoing through the chamber. Keep climbing, I shouted, don't stop. The Grootsiang struck again, trunk reaching, and caught Eric's leg. He was pulled from the wall, screaming, his fingers scrabbling at the stone. The creature shook him, like a dog with a rat, and then dropped him into its mouth. Two gone, two brothers dead in seconds. Sarah was ahead of me, climbing fast, her terror giving her strength. Victor was above her, nearing the surface. I was last, the slowest, the Grootsiang's attention fixed on me. I felt the wind of its trunk, felt it brush my back, and I climbed harder, faster, my muscles burning, my lungs screaming. The rope was just ahead, just inches away, and I grabbed it, pulled myself up, began to haul. The Grootsiang screamed, that sound like a dying elephant, like the earth in pain, and the force of it knocked me loose from the wall. I swung, dangling, the rope the only thing between me and death. "Pull," I screamed, "pull me up." Hands reached down, Victor's and Sarah's, grabbing my harness, hauling me up. The Grootsiang struck again, trunk whipping, missing me by inches. Then I was out, spilling onto the surface, rolling away from the hole, gasping, alive. The Grootsiang didn't follow. It stayed in the darkness, watching, its many eyes gleaming up at us. I saw it recede, sliding back down into the deep, and then it was gone. We had escaped. 5 of us had gone down, 3 of us had come up. Hans and Eric Peterson were dead, devoured, gone. Chapter 3: First Contact. We lay on the surface, gasping, bleeding, in shock. Victor had a gash on his arm where the Grootsiang's trunk had grazed him. Sarah was crying, hysterical, unable to process what she had seen. I was shaking, my whole body vibrating with adrenaline and terror. "What was that?" Victor finally asked, his voice hoarse. "What the hell was that?" "The Grootsiang," I said. "The legend, it was real." "Legends aren't real, that thing, that was." "Real," I finished. "It's real, and it just killed 2 men." Dr. Molf rushed over, his face pale. I heard screaming. "What happened?" "The Grootsiang," Sarah sobbed. It ate them both." Dr. Molf went even paler, if that was possible. "You saw it, you actually saw it." "We saw it," I confirmed. "It's down there, it's guarding the diamonds." "Then we leave," Dr. Molf said. "Now, before it comes back." "We can't leave," Victor said, his voice hardening. "We found the diamonds. We found billions of dollars in stones. I'm not leaving that." "You'll die," I said. "We all will if we go back down there." "Then we don't go back down, we lure it out, we kill it." "Kill it? Victor, did you see that thing? It's massive, it's ancient. We can't kill that with rifles." "We have explosives, we have mining charges, we bring the whole cave down on it." "And bury the diamonds." "Better buried than guarded by that monster." I stared at him, at the madness in his eyes. He was serious. He would rather destroy everything than admit defeat. "We need to think," I said. "We need to plan." "We need to act," Victor said. "Before it gets dark, before it comes for us." He stood up, went to the supply truck, began loading explosives. The rest of us watched, too stunned to argue, too afraid to stop him. Dr. Molf approached me, his voice low. "He's going to get us all killed." "I know, but what choice do we have? We can't leave him here alone." "We could." "I thought about it, but we need him. He knows the terrain, the routes. Without him, we die in the desert. With him, we die in the cave." "Maybe, but at least we have a chance." We spent the next hours preparing Victor's insane plan. He would lower explosives into the chamber, enough to collapse the roof, to bury the Grootsiang under tons of rock. The rest of us would provide cover, keep watch, ensure that the creature didn't interrupt the operation. It was suicide, and we all knew it. But Victor was beyond reasoning, and the rest of us were too tired, too shocked, to mount a serious objection. As the sun began to set, painting the desert in shades of blood and gold, we moved to the edge of the Wonder Hole, Victor with his explosives, the rest of us with our rifles and our fear. "This is it," Victor said, looking down into the darkness. "This is where we end it." "Or where it ends us," Sarah muttered. Victor didn't hear or pretended not to. He rigged the charges, attached them to ropes, began lowering them into the hole. The Grootsiang was waiting. It rose without warning, without sound, its massive head emerging from the darkness like a demon from hell. The mouth opened, and Victor, standing at the very edge, was caught in the trunk, lifted, screaming, into that terrible maw. "Victor!" I screamed. The explosives detonated. Victor had armed them before lowering them, a precaution against the creature interrupting his work. Now, as the Grootsiang lifted him, the timer reached 0 and the charges went off. The explosion was massive, deafening, a shockwave that knocked us all off our feet. I saw fire erupt from the hole, saw the Grootsiang's head disappear in a cloud of smoke and debris, saw Victor's body hurled into the air, trailing blood and smoke. Then the world went black. When I woke, I was half buried in rubble, my ears ringing, my vision blurred. I crawled free, coughing, gasping, and looked at the wonder hole. It was gone. The explosion had collapsed the entrance, burying it under tons of rock. A new hill had formed where the hole had been, steaming, smoking, still settling. "Sarah," I called. "Dr. Molf, anyone?" "Here," Sarah's voice came, weak, from somewhere to my left. "I'm here." I found her, pulled her free. She was battered, bleeding, but alive. The others? "I don't know, I can't see." We searched, calling, and found Dr. Molf 20 yards away, unconscious but breathing. We found 2 of the local men, Thomas and Peter, dead, crushed by falling rock. The others, Jacob, Moses, Samuel, Johans, were gone, scattered, possibly fled into the desert. And Victor was dead. We found his body near the collapsed hole, broken, burned, barely recognizable. He had killed the Grootsiang or buried it at the cost of his own life. "Is it dead?" Sarah asked, looking at the smoking rubble. "I don't know," I said, "but it's buried, it can't get out." "Are you sure?" "No." We huddled together, the 3 survivors, surrounded by death and destruction, and waited for the dawn. The Grootsiang was buried, but we all knew in our hearts that it wasn't dead. It was waiting. And it would remember us. Chapter 4: Into the Depths. The night was the longest of my life. We huddled together, Sarah, Dr. Molf, and I, wrapped in emergency blankets, watching the collapsed wonder hole for signs of movement. The rubble had settled, the smoke had cleared, but the fear remained, a palpable thing that filled the air like humidity. "What do we do?" Sarah asked, her voice small in the darkness. "At first light we hike out," I said. "Follow the route we came in." "What about the others, the local men?" "If they survived, they'll head for the vehicles. We'll meet them at the rendezvous point." "And if they didn't survive?" "Then we drive out alone." Dr. Molf stirred, his head bandaged with strips of cloth from Sarah's shirt. "The Grootsiang," he said, his voice thick with concussion. "Is it?" "Buried," I told him. "Victor's explosives collapsed the entrance." "Good, good." "Is it dead?" Sarah asked again. "I don't know," I admitted, "but it can't get out, not through tons of rock." "Unless there are other exits," Dr. Molf said. "The legends say the Wonder Hole connects to the sea, 40 miles of tunnels." 40 miles. According to the stories, the Grootsiang can move underground through the earth itself. It doesn't need tunnels, it makes them. Then it could be anywhere. It could be under our feet right now. We looked at the ground, at the red desert sand, and I felt the weight of the earth above us, around us, below us. We were in its domain. We were in its world. "Sleep if you can," I said, though I knew none of us would. "I'll take first watch." The hours crawled by. I watched the stars wheel overhead, the desert cold seeping into my bones. I thought about Hans and Eric swallowed whole, about Victor blown apart by his own explosives, about the diamonds, the fortune that had brought us here, that had cost so many lives. It wasn't worth it. None of it was worth it. Dawn came slowly, the sky lightening from black to purple to red. The sun crested the horizon, painting the desert in shades of blood, and I woke the others. Time to move, I said. We gathered what supplies we could: water, food, a first aid kit, one rifle with 12 rounds. Dr. Molf was weak from his head injury, unsteady on his feet, but he insisted on walking. We stick together, I said. No one goes anywhere alone. We move fast, we stay alert. What if we find the others? Sarah asked. We help them if we can, but we don't stop, we don't wait. We set out, following the tracks our vehicles had made on the way in. The desert was beautiful in the morning light, stark and alien, and I would have appreciated it if I hadn't been so afraid. We walked for 2 hours, the sun climbing, the heat building. Dr. Molf was flagging, his steps unsteady, but he refused to stop. There, Sarah said, pointing, is that? I looked, a figure in the distance, stumbling toward us. Jacob, I breathed, it's Jacob. We ran, meeting the old man halfway. He was in bad shape, dehydrated, sunburned, his clothes torn. The others? I asked. Dead, he gasped, all dead. The ground, it opened, swallowed them. The Grootsiang. It knows we're here, it's hunting us. When did this happen? Last night, after the explosion. It came up, took Moses, Samuel, Johans, Thomas and Peter too. I think I ran. You did the right thing. I left them to die. You survived, that's what matters. He looked at me, his eyes haunted. Nothing matters, we're all going to die. We gave him water, helped him walk. Now we were four survivors out of 12, and the desert stretched before us, endless and empty. How far do the vehicles? Sarah asked. 20 miles, I estimated, maybe more. Can we make it? We have to. We walked, the 4 of us, supporting each other, sharing water, sharing hope. The sun climbed higher, the heat becoming unbearable, and I felt the first touches of heat stroke, the confusion, the weakness. We need to rest, Dr. Molf said. Not yet. David, I'm dying. You're not dying, keep walking. The Grootsiang is buried, it can't get us. Then why is the ground shaking? I stopped. He was right. The ground was vibrating, a low rumble that I could feel in my feet. Run, I screamed. The desert exploded. The sand erupted upward in a fountain, and from it emerged the Grootsiang. Not all of it. The explosion had wounded it, I could see that now. Scales were missing, flesh was exposed, one of its eyes was gone, a bleeding socket. But it was still massive, still deadly, and it was angry. The trunk whipped out, caught Jacob before he could flee, lifted him into the air. He screamed, a high, thin sound, and then the mouth opened and he was gone, swallowed whole. No, I screamed, firing the rifle, the bullets bouncing off scales, doing nothing. The Grootsiang turned, its many eyes fixing on me, and I saw intelligence there, malice, hunger. It remembered me. It knew who I was. Split up, I shouted, run. We scattered, Sarah to the left, Dr. Molf to the right, me running straight ahead, toward the only cover I could see, a cluster of boulders 50 yards away. The Grootsiang chose Dr. Molf. It moved with terrifying speed, its massive body flowing over the sand like water, and it caught him, the trunk wrapping around his waist, lifting him. David, he screamed, help me. I fired, emptying the magazine, the bullets doing nothing. The mouth opened, and Dr. Amos Molf, the man who had warned us, who had tried to save us, disappeared into the darkness. 2 more dead, Sarah and I were all that remained. We ran, the creature pursuing, its screams echoing across the desert. We reached the boulders, scrambled into the gaps, hid in the shadows. The Grootsiang stopped, its head weaving, searching. It couldn't fit into the rocks, couldn't follow us into the crevices. It screamed in frustration, trunk thrashing, and then it retreated, diving back into the earth, leaving only disturbed sand to mark its passage. It's gone, Sarah whispered. For now. What do? We keep moving, we get to the vehicles, we drive out of here. It's faster than us, It can move through the ground. Then we don't let it catch us. We waited an hour, then crept from our hiding place. The desert was still silent, but we knew it was waiting, watching. We walked, keeping to the rocks, moving from boulder to boulder, never crossing open ground. The sun reached its zenith, the heat became deadly, and we were forced to rest in the shade of a stone outcropping. "How far?" Sarah asked. 10 miles, maybe less." "We'll never make it." "We will, we have to." We drank the last of our water, knowing it might be the last we ever had. The desert stretched before us, red and empty and deadly. And beneath it, something ancient and terrible waited. Chapter 5: The Creature Wakes. We walked until dusk, until our feet were blistered and our minds were numb. The Grootsiang didn't attack again, but we knew it was there. We could feel it, a pressure in the earth, a presence that watched and waited. "There," Sarah said, pointing. "Is that?" I looked, squinting against the dying light, shapes in the distance, vehicles. "The trucks," I shouted. "We made it." We ran, stumbling, desperate. The vehicles were there, 3 of the 4 we had brought, intact, functional. The keys were in the ignition, left by the local men who had fled. "Get in," I yelled. "Start the engine." Sarah jumped into the nearest truck, fumbled with the keys, turned the ignition. The engine coughed, caught, roared to life. "Go," I screamed, running to the second vehicle. The ground shook. The Grootsiang erupted between us, its massive body blocking my path, its trunk whipping towards Sarah's truck. It struck the vehicle, flipping it, sending it rolling across the sand. "Sarah!" The truck came to rest on its side, smoke rising from the engine. Sarah crawled from the window, bleeding, dazed, alive. "Run," I screamed. "Get to the other truck." She ran, and I fired the second vehicle's engine, gunned the accelerator. The Grootsiang screamed, lunged, its trunk reaching for me through the open window. I jerked the wheel, the truck swerved, and the trunk missed by inches. "Sarah, get in." She was running, the Grootsiang turning, pursuing. I reached her, she jumped in, and I floored it, the truck surging forward, sand spraying behind us. The creature followed, but we were faster on the open desert. The truck's 4-wheel drive bit into the sand, and we pulled away, leaving the Grootsiang behind, its screams fading into the distance. "We made it," Sarah gasped. "We actually made it." "Not yet," I said. "We need to get to the main road, get to civilization." "How far?" 50 miles, maybe more." "Will the truck make it?" "It has to." We drove through the night, the headlights cutting through the darkness, the stars our only guide. The Grootsiang didn't follow or couldn't follow, and gradually our terror faded to a dull, constant fear. "Tell me about the diamonds," Sarah said to break the silence. "What about them? Were they real, worth it?" They were real. Billions of dollars, maybe trillions. But no, they weren't worth it. Nothing is worth this. Then why did we come? Hope, desperation, the belief that we could change our lives. We changed them, just not the way we wanted. I nodded, watching the desert pass by. We'll get through this. We'll survive. Will we? The Grootsiang is still out there. It knows us now. It will remember. Then we make sure it never finds us again. We disappear. We change our names, our lives. Can we do that? We have to. We drove on, the night deepening, the desert stretching endlessly. And then, just as I was beginning to believe we might actually survive, the ground opened in front of us. The Grootsiang had been waiting. It had circled around, anticipated our route, and now it rose from the earth like a wall, blocking our path. "Hold on," I screamed, jerking the wheel. The truck swerved, tipped, rolled. We were thrown around like dolls, metal screeching, glass shattering, and then we came to rest, upside down, half buried in sand. I was dazed, my vision swimming, my ears ringing. I crawled from the wreckage, pulled Sarah free. She was unconscious, bleeding from a gash on her forehead. "Sarah," I shook her, slapped her face. "Wake up." She stirred, her eyes fluttering open. What happened?" "Wreck, it's here." The Grootsiang loomed over us, its many eyes gleaming in the starlight. It was wounded, I could see that, scars from the explosion, burns from the fire, but it was still deadly, still hungry. "David," Sarah whispered, "I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry, be ready." "For what?" "For this." I grabbed a piece of metal from the wreckage, a sharp, jagged length of steel, and charged the creature. It was insane, suicidal, but it was all I had. The Grootsiang seemed surprised. It hesitated, trunk coiling back, and I struck, driving the metal into one of its eyes. It screamed, a sound of pure agony, and recoiled, trunk thrashing. I struck again, screaming, fighting, dying. But I was a mouse fighting an elephant. The Grootsiang recovered, its trunk whipping out, catching me around the waist, lifting me. I looked down at Sarah, saw her face, saw her tears. "Run," I mouthed. The mouth opened, and the world went dark. Chapter 6: The Massacre. I woke in darkness, surrounded by the smell of decay, the sound of water dripping, the sensation of movement. I was being carried, jostled, pressed against rough scales. I was inside the Grootsiang. Not eaten, not yet, but held in its throat, in that muscular tube that could expand to accommodate prey. The metal fragment was still in my hand, buried in the creature's flesh, keeping the throat open, keeping me from sliding down into the stomach. I was alive, impossibly, miraculously alive. "Help," I screamed, though I knew no one could hear. "Help me." The movement stopped. The Grootsiang had reached its destination, whatever that was, and it was preparing to swallow. I felt the muscles contract, felt the pressure increase, felt myself being forced downward. I screamed, fought, kicked, but I was weak, injured, no match for the creature's strength. Then I heard a sound, a familiar sound, an engine. Through the translucent walls of the throat, I saw light, headlights, a vehicle. "In here," I screamed. "I'm in here." The Grootsiang screamed too, a roar of pain and rage, and suddenly I was falling, tumbling, being ejected. I hit the ground hard, the creature vomiting me up like a hairball, and I rolled, gasping, covered in mucus and blood. "David," Sarah's voice. "Oh God, David." She was there, kneeling over me, pulling me away from the thrashing creature. The truck was there too, the one that had rolled, somehow back on its wheels, engine running. "How?" I gasped. "I drove it at the creature," she said. "Distracted it, got it to spit you out. You saved me. We're saving each other, get in." She dragged me to the truck, threw me in the back, climbed into the driver's seat. The Grootsiang was recovering, turning, its trunk reaching for us. "Go," I screamed. She floored it. The truck surged forward, the trunk missed by inches, and we were away, accelerating into the night. "How did you get the truck running?" I asked, my voice weak. "Luck, it was on its side, but the engine was intact. I rolled it back over." "And you came back for me." "I wasn't leaving you. I told you to run. I don't take orders well." I laughed, hysterical, delirious. We were alive, both of us. Against all odds, against all reason, we were alive. But the Grootsiang was still behind us, still hunting, and we still had 50 miles of desert to cross. "Can you drive?" Sarah asked. "My arm, I think it's broken." "Then I'll drive, you navigate." "I don't know the way." "Then we'll find it together." She drove and I directed, using the stars, using instinct, using hope. The Grootsiang didn't attack again, but we could feel it, a pressure at the edge of our perception, following, waiting. Dawn came, and with it, the main road, civilization, safety. We had survived, 2 of us out of 12. David Chen and Sarah Okonkwo, the only survivors of the Grootsiang. But I knew, as we drove toward the rising sun, that this wasn't over. The creature was still out there, still hunting, still waiting. And it would remember us. It would always remember us. The age of monsters had begun, and we were just two of the survivors. But we were alive. And that was enough. For now. Chapter 7, Running for Life. The road was tarmac, smooth and black, a ribbon of civilization cutting through the wilderness. Sarah drove with reckless speed, the needle pushing past 100 kilometers per hour, the truck's engine screaming. I held on, my broken arm cradled against my chest, my body screaming with pain. "Hospital," I gasped. "We need a hospital." "Nearest town is 50 kilometers, Sarah said, her eyes fixed on the road. "Steinkopf, they have a clinic." 50 kilometers. "We'll make it." Behind us the desert was silent. No sign of the Grootsiang, no indication that it followed. But I knew it was there, waiting, watching. "Do you think it's still following?" Sarah asked, as if reading my mind. "Yes." "How do you know?" "Because it's ancient, patient, it doesn't give up." "Then what do we do?" "Get to the town, get indoors. Concrete, steel, it can't move through that." "And then?" "Call for help, call the authorities. Someone has to know about this." "Will they believe us?" "The bodies, the wreckage, they have to believe something." We drove, the kilometers ticking by slowly. The sun climbed, the heat built, and I felt the first touches of fever, the infection setting in from my wounds. "You're burning up," Sarah said, touching my forehead. "Infection, the creature's saliva, it's in my wounds." "Antibiotics, we need antibiotics." "The clinic." "We'll get there." Steinkopf was a small town, a collection of buildings around a central square. Sarah drove to the clinic, a single-story building with a red cross on the door. "Help," she screamed, bursting through the door. "We need help." The nurse on duty was an older woman, experienced, unflappable. She took one look at me and called for the doctor. "What happened?" she asked. "Accident," Sarah said. "Car crash in the desert." "And the rest, the others?" Sarah hesitated. "Dead." The doctor arrived, a young man named Dr. Barons. He examined me, cleaned my wounds, set my arm in a cast. He gave me antibiotics, painkillers, fluids. "You're lucky to be alive," he said. "Those wounds are severe, and this—" He touched the place where the Grootsiang's saliva had burned my skin. "This looks like a chemical burn." "The fuel tank," I lied, "exploded." "In the desert, with no vehicles around." "Please," Sarah said, "just help him." He helped me. He didn't ask more questions, but I could see the suspicion in his eyes, the knowledge that we weren't telling the truth. We spent the night in the clinic, me in a bed, Sarah in a chair. We slept fitfully, waking at every sound, every tremor in the earth. "It's not here," Sarah whispered in the darkness. "We're safe. For now." "Then we rest, we recover, we plan." "Plan what? It's massive, ancient, immortal." "Nothing is immortal." "This is." "Then we find a way to kill it." "How?" "Explosives barely hurt it. Bullets do nothing." "There's always a way. We just have to find it." She fell asleep eventually, her head drooping, her body exhausted. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling the fever burn through me. In my delirium I saw the Grootsiang. I saw its many eyes watching me. I felt its hunger, its ancient patience. It spoke to me, not in words but in images, in impressions. "You are marked," it said. "You are mine." "No," I whispered. "I'm not yours, I'm free." "All things are mine in time. The earth swallows all. The earth remembers all." "I'll stop you." "You will try, and you will fail, and you will become part of me as all things do." I woke screaming, my heart pounding. Sarah was beside me, holding my hand. "Nightmare," she said. "Just a nightmare." "It wasn't," I said. "It was talking to me, the Grootsiang in my mind." "That's impossible." It knows I'm here. It knows where we are. It's coming. It's 50 miles away, in the desert. Distance means nothing to it. It moves through the earth. Then what do? We run now. We left the clinic before dawn, stealing a car from the clinic's parking lot. Dr. Behrens tried to stop us, but we were past reason, past caution. We need to warn people, I said as Sarah drove. The town, it's in danger. How? They won't believe us. They have to. David, look at us. We're wounded, delirious, talking about monsters. They'll lock us up. Then we don't tell them about monsters. We tell them about a gas leak, a geological instability, something to evacuate the town. And when nothing happens, better a false alarm than thousands dead. We stopped at the police station, the last building before the edge of town. I went in, tried to explain, tried to warn them. There's a geological event coming, I said. Earthquake maybe, sinkholes, you need to evacuate. The officer looked at me, at my bandaged arm, at my fever-bright eyes. Sir, are you feeling all right? I'm fine, you need to listen. Sir, I think you need medical attention. I just came from medical, please, you have to. The ground shook. It was a small tremor, barely noticeable, but I felt it in my bones. I knew what it was. It's here, I whispered. What's here? The officer asked. The front wall of the police station exploded inward, bricks and mortar flying, and the Grootsiang's head filled the opening. It screamed, that terrible sound, and the officer was lifted, screaming into that waiting maw. Run, I shouted to Sarah. We ran out the back into the alley into the dawn. Behind us, the police station collapsed, the Grootsiang thrashing, destroying. The car, Sarah screamed. We reached it, jumped in, and she floored it, the tires squealing. Behind us, the Grootsiang emerged from the wreckage, its many eyes searching, finding. It's following, I cried. I know. We drove through Steinkopf, the creature in pursuit. It moved through the earth, erupting through streets, through buildings, leaving destruction in its wake. People screamed, ran, died. The town was being destroyed, one building at a time. We have to lead it away, I said, away from the town. How? I don't know. But the Grootsiang made the decision for us. It stopped pursuing us, turned instead to the main street, to the shops and houses. It was hunting, feeding, destroying. No, I whispered. No, no, no. We can't stop it, Sarah said. We have to go. All these people. Dead either way. If we stay, we die too. If we go, maybe we can find a way to stop it. She was right. I hated it, but she was right. We drove out of Steinkopf, leaving the screams behind, leaving the destruction, leaving the dead. The town burned in our rearview mirror, and I knew that the death toll was in the hundreds, maybe thousands. And it was my fault. My expedition had awakened the creature. My greed had brought this. Not your fault, Sarah said, reading my expression. Victor's fault, the diamond's fault. I'm the geologist, I should have known. Known what? That monsters are real. Yes. She didn't answer. We drove in silence, the desert passing by, the weight of our survival heavy on our shoulders. Chapter 8, The Cave System. We drove for 2 hours, until the truck's fuel gauge hit empty, until we were deep in the wilderness, far from any settlement. We abandoned the vehicle, took what supplies we could carry, and continued on foot. Where are we going? Sarah asked. Back. Back where? To the Wonder Hole. Are you insane? That's where it lives. Exactly. We need to understand it. We need to find its weakness. It doesn't have a weakness. It's a god. It's not a god. It's an animal. Old, powerful, but still an animal. Animals have weaknesses. And what weakness does a 300-meter-long snake elephant have? I don't know yet, but I'll find it. We hiked for 3 days, living off our supplies, hiding from the sun in the day, moving by night. The Grootsiang didn't find us or didn't bother with us, focused on larger prey. "Why isn't it hunting us?" Sarah asked on the second night. "It knows we can't escape. It knows it can find us whenever it wants." "That's comforting." "It's playing with us, like a cat with a mouse." "Then why go back to its lair?" "Because that's where the answers are. The cave system, the diamonds, the connection to the sea. There's something there, something that explains what it is, how it lives. Or we die there. Or we die there." On the third day, we reached the Wonder Hole, or what was left of it. Victor's explosion had collapsed the entrance, created a mound of rubble where the black mouth had been. "It's sealed," Sarah said. "There are other entrances. Dr. Molf said the cave system connects to the sea. 40 miles of tunnels. There have to be other ways in." "How do we find them?" "We look." We searched the area, the rubble, the rocks. Hours passed, the sun climbed, the heat became deadly. "Here," I said, finding a crack in the stone. "Air, I can feel air moving." We cleared the entrance, widened the gap. It was a tunnel, narrow, steep, descending into darkness. "This is it," I said, "another way in." "David, this is crazy." "I know, but it's our only chance." We entered the cave, using our phones as lights, descending into the earth. The tunnel was tight, claustrophobic, but it went down, deeper and deeper. "How far?" Sarah asked. "I don't know." We walked for an hour, then 2. The air grew cooler, damper. We heard water dripping, flowing. "We're close," I said, "close to the main chamber." The tunnel opened into a vast space, the cathedral we had seen before, but from a different angle. The diamonds still glittered on the walls, still called to us with their false promise. "The nest," I whispered. "What nest?" "The Grootsiang's lair. This is where it lives, where it sleeps." We moved carefully, quietly. The chamber was empty, the creature gone, hunting above. "Look," I said, pointing. In the center of the chamber, where the creature had lain, was a depression in the stone. A bed, worn smooth by centuries of use. And in that bed, half buried in the rock, was something that glowed. "What is it?" Sarah asked. "I don't know." We approached cautiously. It was a stone, or a gem, larger than my fist, glowing with an inner light. It pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. "The Grootsiang's heart," I breathed. "Its core, the source of its power." "How do you know?" "I don't, but look at it, it's alive. It's connected to the creature." "If we destroy it?" "We kill the Grootsiang. Or we piss it off even more." "Risk either way." I reached for the stone, touched it. It was warm, vibrating, alive. I felt a connection, a link, a sharing of consciousness. "You," a voice said in my mind. "The marked one, the survivor." "I hear you," I thought. "You come to my home, to my heart. You seek to destroy me. I seek to stop you, to save the innocent." "There are no innocents, only prey." "Then I am your enemy." "You are nothing, less than nothing." "We'll see." I withdrew my hand, broke the connection. "It knows we're here. It'll return soon." "Then we destroy the stone and run." "Yes." We had no explosives, no heavy tools, but we had the diamonds, hard, sharp, capable of cutting anything. I pried a diamond from the wall, used it to strike the stone. Sparks flew, but the stone didn't break. "Again," Sarah said. I struck again. The stone cracked, a hairline fracture appearing across its surface. "It's working." "Faster." I struck again, and the stone split, a piece chipping away. Light erupted from the crack, blinding, searing, and I felt the Grootsiang scream, not in my ears, but in my mind. "What did you do?" Sarah cried. "Heard it." "Is it dead?" "No, but it's wounded." The ground shook, the chamber trembling. The Grootsiang was returning, drawn by its pain, by its injury. "Run," I screamed. We ran back up the tunnel, climbing, scrambling. Behind us, the earth itself seemed to scream, the Grootsiang's rage manifesting as earthquake, as fissure, as destruction. "Faster," Sarah cried. The tunnel collapsed behind us, rock falling, dust choking. We ran blind, gasping, desperate. Then we saw light, daylight, the entrance. We burst through, into the sun, into the air, and the ground erupted behind us, the Grootsiang's head filling the opening. It was wounded, I could see that. Scales missing, flesh exposed, its glow dimmer than before. But it was still deadly, still angry, still hunting. "Climb," I shouted, "the rocks." We scrambled up a slope of boulders out of the creature's reach. It thrashed, trunk whipping, but couldn't follow. "It can't get us," Sarah panted. "Not here, but it will find another way." "Then we keep moving." We climbed higher into the mountains, where the rock was solid, where the Grootsiang couldn't follow. Below us, the creature screamed, thrashed, then retreated, diving back into the earth. "We heard it," I said. "The stone, it's connected to the creature. We heard it by breaking the stone." "Can we kill it with the stone?" "If we destroy the stone completely, if we shatter it." "Then we have to go back." "I know." We rested, recovered, planned. The Grootsiang was wounded, vulnerable, but still dangerous. We had one chance, one opportunity. "When?" Sarah asked. "Tonight. It hunts at night. The lair will be empty." "And if we're wrong?" "Then we die." "That's not reassuring." "It's the truth." We waited, the hours crawling by. I felt the Grootsiang's presence, its attention, its hatred. It knew what we had done, what we planned to do. "It's waiting for us," I said. "It knows we'll come back." "Then we surprise it." "How?" "We don't go back the same way. We find another entrance." "And if there isn't one?" "There is, there has to be." We searched, found another crack, another tunnel. It was smaller, tighter, but it led down into the depths. "This is it," I said. "This is how we get to the stone." "Let's go," Sarah said. We entered the dark, 2 survivors, 2 killers hunting the hunter. Chapter 9: Desperate Measures. The second tunnel was worse than the first. Narrow, twisting, barely wide enough to squeeze through. We crawled, scraped, bled our way forward. "How far?" Sarah gasped. "Close, I can feel it. The stone, it's pulsing." "You can feel it." "Since I touched it, we're connected." "That's not good." "No, but it's useful." The tunnel opened into a side chamber, smaller than the cathedral but still impressive. And there on a pedestal of rock was the stone, the heart, the core. It was cracked, I could see that, wounded by my earlier attack. But it still glowed, still pulsed, still lived. "We need to destroy it," I said, "completely." "How? We don't have tools." "The diamonds. We use the diamonds." We gathered them, the sharp ones, the hard ones. We approached the stone. "You return," the voice said in my mind. "Foolish, brave, but foolish." "I'm ending this," I said aloud. "You cannot end what has no beginning. I am eternal. I am the earth." "You're an animal, old, powerful, but an animal." "Then come, test your theory." I raised the diamond, struck the stone. It cracked further, the glow dimming. "Yes," the voice said. "Pain, I know pain, it is. Interesting." "Die," I snarled, striking again. The stone shattered, exploding into fragments, and the light went out. For a moment silence, stillness. Then the scream. The Grootsiang's death scream, louder than anything I had ever heard, shaking the earth, shaking my soul. "Run," I screamed to Sarah. We ran, the chamber collapsing around us, the earth itself convulsing. The Grootsiang was dying, and it was taking its lair with it. The tunnel collapsed behind us, rock falling, sealing our escape. We were trapped, buried alive in the dark. "David," Sarah screamed. "I'm here, keep moving." We scrambled forward, feeling our way desperate. The air was thick with dust, impossible to breathe. I can't see. Follow my voice, follow me. I found her hand, pulled her forward. We moved together, blind, choking, dying. Then miraculously, air, cool air, fresh air. The tunnel opened and we saw stars, the night sky, freedom. We crawled out, gasping, bleeding, alive. Behind us the earth settled, the tunnel sealed forever. Is it dead? Sarah asked. I don't know, but we heard it. We heard it badly. Will it come back? If it survived, eventually. Then we're not safe. We're alive, that's enough. We lay on the desert sand, two survivors watching the stars. The Grootsiang was buried, wounded, maybe dead. We had done what we could. But I knew in my heart that it wasn't over. The creature was ancient, patient, immortal. It would heal, it would return. And it would remember us. The war was not won, only delayed. But for now, we were alive. And that was enough. The age of monsters had not ended. But we had fought. We had survived. And that was something. That was enough. For now. Chapter 10, The Diamond Chamber. We lay in the desert for hours, recovering our strength, waiting for dawn. The night was cold, the stars bright, and the silence was absolute. No sound from the earth, no indication that the Grootsiang still lived. But I could feel it, in my bones, in my blood, in the connection that touching its heartstone had forged. It was still alive. Wounded, yes. Weakened, perhaps, but alive. It's not dead, I said, my voice hoarse. How do you know? Sarah asked. I can feel it, the connection, it's still there. Then what do? We finish it. We go back in, find the remains of the stone, destroy them completely. You're insane, we barely escaped. If we don't finish it, it will heal, it will return, and it will hunt us forever. Maybe we can run, disappear. It knows me, Sarah. It knows my mind, it can find me anywhere. Then we have no choice. No, we don't. We rested until dawn, then moved. The entrance we had used was sealed, collapsed by the Grootsiang's death throes, but there were other ways in. The cave system was vast, honeycombed with tunnels, connections to the sea. The sea, I said, remembering. Dr. Molf said it connects to the ocean, 40 miles away. So that's how it survived. It can move through water, through earth. But if we cut off its escape route, trap it in the cave. How do we do that? We collapse the tunnels, block the exits. With what? The explosives, the ones Victor brought, they must still be there in the main chamber. The main chamber is collapsed. Partially, the explosives might still be accessible. Might. It's our only chance. We searched the area looking for another entrance. Hours passed, the sun climbed, the heat became deadly. Here, Sarah said, finding a sinkhole. Air, I can smell the sea. She was right. The air from the sinkhole was damp, salty, the connection to the ocean. This is how it moves, I said, how it travels. Then we block it. First, we find the explosives. We descended into the sinkhole, into darkness. The tunnel was wet, slippery, carved by water over millennia. We moved carefully, silently, listening for any sign of the creature. How far? Sarah whispered. Close, I can feel the stone, the remains of the heart. You can feel them. The connection, it's like a compass, pointing me to it. That's not normal. Nothing about this is normal. The tunnel opened into a flooded chamber, water knee-deep, flowing slowly toward the sea. And there in the center was the remains of the Grootsiang's heart, shattered, broken, but still pulsing with dim light. There, I said, we need to destroy it completely. With what? Fire. The stone is organic, alive. Fire will destroy it. We don't have fire. We make fire, friction, sparks. In wet conditions. We try. We gathered dry materials, what we could find in the wet cave. We worked, striking stones together, creating sparks. Come on, I muttered, come on. A spark caught, smoldered, died. Another. Finally, a spark that held, that grew, that became flame. Yes. We fed the flame, built it, made it into a torch. I approached the hearthstone, the flame held high. You would destroy me, the voice said, weak now, wounded. You would end what the gods began. You kill, I said. You destroy, you have to end. All things kill, all things destroy, I am merely more efficient. Goodbye. I touched the flame to the stone. It caught, smoldered, then erupted in green fire. The Grootsiang screamed in my mind, in the earth, in the air itself. Burn, I whispered, burn and die. The stone burned, the fire consuming it, consuming the Grootsiang's essence. The chamber shook, the earth convulsed, and I knew that the creature was dying, truly dying. Run, I screamed to Sarah. We ran, the chamber collapsing around us, the fire consuming the stone. Behind us, the Grootsiang's final scream echoed, a sound of pure agony, pure death. Then silence. The connection was gone, the presence, the weight, the watching, all gone. Is it? Sarah started. Dead, I said. I think it's dead. You're sure? The connection is broken, the stone is ash. Then it's over. It's over. We stood in the collapsing chamber, two survivors, surrounded by death and destruction. The Grootsiang was gone, destroyed, ended. But the cost? 10 dead. Victor, the Peterson brothers, Dr. Molf, the local men, plus the people of Steinkopf, the hundreds killed when the creature attacked the town. All for diamonds, all for greed. We need to go, Sarah said. Yes. We found the explosives, miraculously intact in a side chamber. Victor's legacy, his final gift. We used them to seal the cave, to collapse the tunnels, to ensure that nothing could ever use them again. The explosion shook the desert, creating a new depression where the Wonder Hole had been. The cave system was buried, sealed, lost forever. It's done, Sarah said, watching the dust settle. It's done. We walked out of the desert, two survivors, two people who had faced a god and lived. We were changed, marked, haunted. But we were alive. And that was enough. Chapter 11, Sacrifice. The walk to civilization took 3 days. We had no water, no food, only the clothes on our backs. We were weak, injured, dying. We won't make it, Sarah said on the second day. We will. I'm not like you, David. I don't have your connection to this. You don't need it. You have will. You have strength. I'm dying. You're not. I am. She collapsed, her body finally giving out. I carried her, my broken arm screaming, my own strength fading. Leave me, she whispered. Never. You'll die too. Then we die together. I carried her for hours, stumbling, falling, rising. The desert stretched endlessly, red and empty and deadly. David, she said, her voice barely audible, thank you. For what? For not giving up, for saving me, for being you. You're welcome. I would have followed you anywhere. You did. I'm glad. She closed her eyes, her breathing shallow. I thought she was dead, and I wept, there in the desert, tears mixing with dust. But she wasn't dead, not yet. I kept walking, kept carrying her, kept hoping. Then I saw it, a road, a real road with vehicles, with people. Help, I screamed, my voice cracking, help us. A truck stopped, a local man getting out, staring at us like we were ghosts. Please, I begged, help her, help my friend. He helped us. He had water, food, a radio. He called for help, for medical, for rescue. We were saved, both of us. Against all odds, against all reason, we were saved. Sarah was taken to a hospital, treated for dehydration, for exposure, for the psychological trauma. I was treated for my physical wounds, my broken arm, my burns. But we were alive. And the Grootsiang was dead. The official story was that we had been in a car accident, lost in the desert, survived against the odds. The diamonds, the creature, the deaths, all covered up, classified, forgotten. But we knew the truth. Sarah and I, we knew. The world was bigger, stranger, more dangerous than anyone knew. Monsters were real. Legends were true. And we had survived. Chapter 12, The Aftermath. The months that followed were a blur of recovery, of debriefing, of trying to forget. The authorities questioned us, again and again, trying to understand what had happened. We told them the truth, or most of it. The car accident, the desert, the survival. We left out the Grootsiang, the diamonds, the deaths. What about the others? They asked. Cross, the Petersons, the local men. Dead, we said, in the desert, lost. And the town, Steinkopf, the earthquake. We don't know, we were already gone. They didn't believe us, not completely. But they couldn't prove we were lying, and eventually they stopped asking. We were released, free to go, free to live. But we were changed, marked. The Grootsiang had touched us in ways that went beyond physical. I could still feel the earth sometimes. The vibrations, the movements, the life beneath the surface. I knew when earthquakes were coming, when the ground was unstable. Sarah was changed too. She had nightmares, visions, moments where she would freeze, seeing something that wasn't there. It's still with us, she said one night, months later, in our minds. Yes. Will it ever go away? I don't know. I don't want to forget. Neither do I. We stayed in touch, two survivors bound by trauma and memory. We met occasionally, talked, shared our experiences. Do you ever think about going back? She asked. No. Neither do I. But I dream about it, the desert, the cave, the creature. Me too. It will always be with us. Yes. Is that good or bad? It's just what is. We parted, going our separate ways. Sarah went back to Nigeria to her family to try to rebuild her life. I stayed in South Africa, working as a consultant, advising mining companies on safety, on geology, on the dangers that lay beneath the surface. I never told them about the Grootsiang. I never told anyone. But I knew that there were things in the earth, old things, dangerous things that should be left alone. And I knew that some legends were true. The Grootsiang was dead, its body buried under tons of rock, its heart burned to ash. But its memory lived on, in me, in Sarah, in the stories we would never tell. We had survived. We had faced the great snake, the primordial creature, the monster from the legends, and we had won. But the cost was everything. 10 dead. Hundreds more in Steinkopf. A town destroyed. A legend proven true. And 2 survivors marked forever, carrying the weight of what they had seen. Was it worth it? I don't know, but we were alive, and that was something, that was enough. The Grootsiang was dead. But the age of monsters had just begun, and we were ready for whatever came next, ready for the darkness, ready to survive, again. And again, until the end. Whenever that end might come, we were survivors, and that was enough, that was everything. Chapter 13, The Survivors. A year passed, then 2. The world moved on, forgot the incident at Steinkopf, forgot the deaths in the desert. The earthquake was explained, the disappearances blamed on smugglers, the destruction written off as natural disaster. Sarah and I stayed in touch, emails, occasional calls. She had found work in Lagos, consulting for oil companies, using her expertise to find resources underground. I remained in Cape Town, working with mining companies, advising on safety, on risk, on the things that lurked below. Do you ever think about it? She asked me one night late, her voice tired. Every day. Me too, the eyes, the teeth, the way it moved. I dream about it. Nightmares. Sometimes it's different, sometimes it talks to me. The Grootsiang. Yes, in my dreams it says it's not dead, that it can't die, that it's just waiting. That's impossible, we destroyed the heart, we burned it. I know, but the dreams. Dreams are just dreams, David, trauma, PTSD. I know, but they feel so real. I know. We talked for hours that night, sharing our fears, our memories, our hopes. We were bonded, she and I, in a way that no one else could understand. We had faced death together, had survived together, had killed a god together. I'm coming to Cape Town next month, she said, for a conference. I'll be here. We should meet, talk in person. I'd like that. Me too. She came, we met, we talked. It was good, healing, to see her face, to know that she was real, that she was alive, that I wasn't alone in my memories. Do you ever want to go back? She asked, over dinner wine, the city lights below us. No. Neither do I. But I feel drawn, like it's calling me. The desert. The cave, the diamonds. Don't. I won't. Promise me. I promise. She left, back to Lagos, back to her life. I stayed in Cape Town, working, living, surviving. But the dreams continued, the Grootsiang calling, waiting, patient. You are marked, it said, you are mine. You're dead, I would say in my dreams. Nothing dies, everything changes, everything waits. What are you waiting for? For you. Why me? Because you destroyed me, because you are strong, because you will become what I was. Never. Never is a long time, David Chin, a very long time. I woke sweating, my heart pounding. The dream was just a dream, the Grootsiang was dead. But the connection remained, the mark, the knowing. I was different now. I could feel the earth, the stone, the life beneath. I knew when earthquakes were coming, when the ground was unstable, when something was wrong. I had become something else, something more. A guardian perhaps, a watcher, a survivor. The Grootsiang had changed me, marked me, made me into something new. And I would use that change, that marking, to protect others, to warn them, to save them. From the darkness, from the deep, from the things that waited in the earth. I was David Chen. I was a survivor. And I was ready. Ready for whatever came next. Chapter 14. The legend continues. 5 years later, I was in Chile, consulting on a mining operation in the Atacama. The desert there was different from the Richtersveld, drier, older, stranger. But the feeling was the same. The earth was alive, watching, waiting. There's something here, I told the foreman, a gruff Australian named Mackenzie. Something like what? I don't know, but you should stop digging. We're on a schedule. Then your schedule will kill you. That's crazy. I know. I left the site, knowing that they wouldn't listen, knowing that they would dig and something would wake and people would die. But I couldn't save everyone. I could only warn them, only hope. I was in my hotel room that night when the earthquake hit. Not a big one, but enough to damage the mine, to collapse the shaft, to bury the workers. 20 dead, the news reported the next morning. Cause unknown. I knew the cause. I had felt it in my bones, in my connection to the earth. Something had been disturbed, something old, something dangerous. Not a Grootsiang, I would have recognized that signature, something else, something new. The age of monsters was continuing. The old powers were waking, one by one, all over the world. And I was there, feeling them, sensing them, trying to warn the world. Sarah called me that night. I felt it, she said, in Nigeria an earthquake, but wrong. I felt it too, in Chile. They're connected. Yes. What do? We survive, we warn, we fight. Can we fight? We have to. We talked for hours, planning, strategizing. We would form a network, a group of survivors, people who had faced the darkness and lived. We'll call it the Watchers, I said, those who see, who know. And what do we watch for? The end, the beginning, the monsters. And when they come, we fight. And if we can't win, then we die, but we die knowing, we die fighting. She agreed and we began. The Watchers, a secret society, a hidden network, survivors of the impossible, guardians of the edge. We found others over the years, people who had faced kelpies, thunderbirds, paisa birds, things that had no names, people who had survived, who had been marked, who had been changed. We shared our knowledge, our strengths, our fears. We prepared for the war that was coming, the war between humanity and the old powers. And we waited. The Grootsiang was dead, its body buried, its heart burned. But the age of monsters had just begun, and we were ready. The legend continues, the survivors survive, and the darkness waits. But so do we. We are the Watchers, we are the guardians, we are the survivors, and we will not fall, not while one of us remains, not while hope remains. The end. Kelpie Capture. Chapter 1, Briefing. The room was underground, as all important rooms are, buried beneath layers of concrete and secrecy that would take a nuclear blast to penetrate. We called it the pit, though officially it had a designation that changed every 6 months according to some algorithm that determined security clearances. I had been in the pit 17 times before this, but never for a briefing like this one. I sat in the third row, my chair uncomfortable in the way that government furniture always is, designed to keep you alert through discomfort rather than respect your service. To my left was Harris, my second-in-command, already taking notes on the tablet they'd issued us. To my right was Chen, Demolitions, who looked like she hadn't slept in 3 days. Probably hadn't. The mission before this one had gone sideways in Mozambique, and she'd carried 2 dead teammates out of a burning building on her back. There were 12 of us in total, gathered from various units, various operations, various nightmares that had official designations and unofficial body counts. We were Task Force Sigma 9, codename, Drownproof. Our specialty was aquatic threats, things that lived in water and fed on land. We'd hunted mermaids in the Mediterranean, dealt with a river troll in the Congo, survived an encounter with something that might have been the Loch Ness Monster's cousin in Minnesota. We were good at what we did, which was why we were still alive. But this briefing felt different. The atmosphere in the room was heavier, charged with something that went beyond normal pre-mission tension. The colonel who entered, Colonel Vance, no first name given, face like a hatchet and eyes like drill bits, carried a folder that looked too thin for the gravity of his expression. At ease, he said, though none of us had stood. We're past formalities on this one. He set the folder on the podium and opened it, revealing photographs that made me sit up straighter. Bodies mostly. Bodies pulled from water, bloated and discolored, with expressions of terror frozen on their faces, but not normal drowning victims. These had marks on them, bruises in the shape of hands, but wrong somehow, with too many fingers or fingers that bent backward. Burns that looked like they'd been caused by something acidic. And the eyes, every single one had their eyes removed, leaving empty sockets that seemed to stare at the camera with accusation. Loch Corwisk, Vance said, clicking to the next slide. A map of Scotland appeared with a remote location marked in red. 3 miles long, half a mile wide, located in the Cuillin Mountains on the Isle of Skye. Deepest point is 200 meters, bottom hasn't been properly mapped. Water temperature hovers just above freezing year-round. No one swims there, I said. It wasn't a question. Correct, Captain McAllister. No one swims there because 23 people have died in that loch in the last 18 months. Tourists, locals. a scientific survey team that was studying the geological formations. All found dead within 24 hours of entering the water, all with the same injuries you see in these photographs. Drowning, Harris asked. Official cause of death, yes, but look closer. He clicked to a close-up of one of the bodies. I saw what he meant. The lungs were full of water, yes, but the throat was crushed, vertebrae shattered from behind. The skin showed signs of chemical burns, and there were wounds that looked like they'd been caused by something with teeth, but no teeth marks matched any known animal. Something's killing them before they drown, Chen said, or while they drown. Something is killing them, yes, and we need to know what. More importantly, we need to capture it. The room went silent. We were hunters, yes, but we were also realists. Capture missions had a higher mortality rate than elimination missions, because capture required getting close, required keeping the target alive, required risks that no sane person would take. Capture, I repeated. Sir, with respect, our usual protocol for unknown aquatic hostiles is observe, evaluate, eliminate if necessary. Why capture? Vance looked at me, and for a moment I saw something in his eyes that I didn't like. Fear, maybe, or desperation. Because it's not just killing, Captain, it's collecting. He clicked to the next slide, and I felt my stomach drop. Underwater photography, taken by a remote vehicle at the bottom of Loch Corwisk. The light was poor, but the shapes were clear enough. Human bodies, dozens of them, arranged in a circle around something that pulsed with bioluminescence. They weren't decomposing. They were preserved, suspended, held in place by something that coiled around them like a nest of serpents. The survey team found this 3 weeks ago, Vance continued. Before they were killed. We lost contact with them 12 hours after they transmitted these images. When we sent a recovery team, they found the ROV destroyed and the divers. Well, you've seen the photos. What is it? Harris asked. The thing in the center. We don't know. That's why we need to capture it. Study it. Understand what we're dealing with before it decides to expand its territory beyond the loch. And if we can't capture it, Vance's jaw tightened. Then you eliminate it, but only as a last resort. The brass wants this thing alive, Captain. They want to know if this is an isolated incident or part of something larger. There have been developments in other locations. Similar patterns, similar deaths. How many other locations? That's classified above your clearance. Suffice to say, this isn't the only water hazard we're tracking. I looked at my team, reading their expressions. Harris was calculating, already thinking about logistics and equipment. Chen was grim, probably remembering Mozambique. The others, O'Connor on medical, Williams on surveillance, Kozlov on heavy weapons, the twins Patel and Singh on infiltration. They all had that look we got before bad missions. The look that said we might not all come back. When do we deploy? I asked. 24 hours. You'll have the full resources of the UK station, plus specialized equipment from R&D. They've been working on countermeasures for aquatic entities. And intel, do we know what this thing is capable of? Vance hesitated. We've consulted specialists, historians, folklorists, people who study these things from an academic perspective. They suggest it might be what's known as a Kelpie. A Kelpie, Chen frowned. Like the Scottish legend, the water horse. The same. According to folklore, it's a shapeshifter that takes the form of a beautiful horse to lure victims into the water, where it drowns and devours them. Folklore, Kozlov rumbled. You want us to risk our lives based on fairy tales. I want you to risk your lives based on photographs of 23 corpses and a nest of preserved bodies at the bottom of a lake, Vance snapped. The folklore is context, nothing more. The reality is what you see in those images. Whatever is down there, it kills efficiently, it preserves its kills, and it's intelligent enough to destroy surveillance equipment. That's what you're dealing with. He closed the folder and looked at each of us in turn. This is a volunteer mission, strictly speaking. No penalties if any of you want to opt out, but I need the best, and that's you. Drownproof has the highest survival rate of any aquatic unit in the program. You face things that should have killed you and you're still here. That's why I'm asking. I didn't need to look at my team to know their answer. We'd signed up for this, knowing the risks. We were the ones who went into the dark water, who faced the things that lived in the places light couldn't reach. It was who we were. "We're in," I said, "all of us." Vance nodded, relief flickering across his face before he controlled it. "Good. Briefing materials will be uploaded to your secure tablets. Study them. Learn everything you can, because in 24 hours you're going to lock Korowisk and whatever is waiting there. It's been waiting a very long time." He gathered his materials and left, the door clicking shut with a sound like a vault ceiling. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of what we'd agreed to settling over us like a shroud. "Kelpie," Harris said finally, "a bloody fairy story." "Fairy stories have to come from somewhere," Chen said quietly. "Every legend has a root in truth." "A horse that eats people," Kozlov muttered. "Ridiculous." "Is it?" I asked. "You've seen the photos. Something is down there. Something that drowns people and arranges their bodies like trophies. Whether it's a kelpie or something else entirely doesn't matter. What matters is that we go in prepared, we capture it if we can, and we all come home." "If possible," O'Connor added. "If possible," I agreed. "Now let's get to work. We have 24 hours to learn how to capture a monster." Chapter 2: The Team. The next 18 hours were a blur of preparation. We reviewed the limited intelligence Vance had provided, supplemented by academic papers on Scottish folklore and historical accounts of drowning deaths in the region. The Kelpie legend was more extensive than I'd realized. Stories dating back centuries, variations found across Scotland and Ireland, all describing a malevolent water spirit that could take human or equine form. According to the research, the Kelpie was attracted to water, bound to it, weakened when separated from it for too long. It was supernaturally strong, capable of carrying multiple riders even in horse form. Its spine could extend, accommodating as many victims as it could catch. And it was nearly impossible to kill. The legend spoke of iron, of magical bridles, of complex rituals required to subdue it. "R&D delivered the equipment," Williams announced, entering our makeshift briefing room with a cartload of cases. "Some of this is interesting." We gathered around as he opened the cases one by one. Electroshock harnesses designed to deliver enough voltage to stun a whale. Reinforced nets made from carbon fiber and synthetic materials that were supposed to resist supernatural strength. Tranquilizers developed from deep-sea creature venoms, powerful enough to paralyze a shark, but supposedly safe for use on cryptids. "And this," Williams said, opening the final case with a flourish, "is the centerpiece." It looked like a saddle, but wrong. Too large, too complex, with straps and buckles, and what appeared to be electrodes built into the interior. The material was a dull black, non-reflective, with symbols etched into the leather that I didn't recognize. "The binding rig," Williams explained, "developed from historical descriptions of Kelpie bridles. It's supposed to suppress shape-shifting, limit strength, and allow for control of the subject. In theory." "In theory?" Kozlov asked. "It's never been tested." "Not on a Kelpie, no. The designers used computer models based on the folklore, actually." "Wonderful." "We also have these." Williams produced a set of small devices that looked like dog collars, tracking and containment fields. Once the Kelpie is subdued, we fit these around its neck, or its equivalent, and they generate a force field that prevents escape. Range is about 50 meters from the central controller, which I'll be carrying. I picked up one of the devices, feeling its weight. It was surprisingly heavy for its size, dense with technology I didn't understand. And if it doesn't work, if the folklore is wrong or the creature is different from what we expect, then we fall back to secondary containment, I said. sedation, physical restraint, and if necessary, termination. The colonel said alive if possible, Harris reminded me. Alive if possible, I agreed, but not at the cost of all our lives. We capture it if we can. If we can't, we make sure it doesn't kill anyone else. Understood. Everyone nodded. We knew the deal. We were the tip of the spear, sent to do what others couldn't or wouldn't. If that meant dying to stop a threat, that was part of the job. But we were also a team, and I had no intention of writing letters to any more widows and orphans. Let's review the insertion plan, I said, pulling up the map on the wall screen. We'd be flying into Sky by military transport, then hiking 3 miles to a base camp established on the shore of Loch Corrowisk. From there, we'd have 2 days to locate the Kelpie, subdue it, and transport it to the extraction point. A specialized containment unit was already en route by sea, a mobile facility that could hold the creature during the journey to the classified research site. The loch is remote, I continued. No roads, no settlements within 5 miles. The only access is by foot or boat. That works in our favor. We won't have civilian casualties, and the Kelpie won't have easy access to additional victims. Unless it can move on land, Singh pointed out. The folklore says it can take human form, if it can walk away from the loch. Then we contain it before it gets the chance. Williams, your team will establish a perimeter around the loch. If anything comes out of that water that isn't one of us, you put it down. Roger. Harris, you'll be with me on the primary capture team. Chen, you're on containment support. If we need to blow something up or collapse a cave, you're our girl. Kozlov, you're on heavy weapons overwatch. O'Connor, medical standby. Patel, Singh, you're on recon and distraction. Distraction, Patel asked. According to the folklore, the Kelpie is attracted to sound, to vibration, to movement. If we need to draw it out, that's your job. Make noise. Make it come to us. And if it comes too fast, then you run fast. We spent the remaining hours checking equipment, running simulations, preparing for every contingency we could imagine. We knew the odds were against us. Cryptid capture missions had a success rate of less than 40% and a survival rate only marginally better. But we were drown-proof. We had faced the darkness before and come back. One more thing, Vance said, appearing in the doorway just as we were finishing preparations. He looked like he hadn't slept since the briefing. New intelligence from the loch. He threw a tablet onto the table and we gathered around to look. It was thermal imaging from a drone flyover conducted 6 hours ago. The loch showed the expected temperature variations, cold surface water, warmer currents below. But there was something else, something that made me lean closer to be sure I was seeing it right. Is that, Chen started. A heat signature, Vance confirmed. Massive, located at the bottom of the loch. Shape suggests something roughly the size of a school bus but with appendages, tentacles maybe or limbs of some kind. The nest, I said, it's guarding the nest. Or it's part of the nest. We don't know. But whatever is down there, it's big, it's warm-blooded or warm-blooded equivalent, and it's been stationary for the last 6 hours. Hibernating, Harris asked. Or waiting. Waiting for what? Vance looked at me, and I saw that fear again, that desperate edge. For you, Captain, it's waiting for you. The room went silent. We were professionals, trained to deal with the unknown, but there's something primal about knowing that something is expecting you, something that has planned for you, that has set a trap and is waiting for you to walk into it. Then we don't disappoint it, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. We go in smart, we go in prepared, and we take it down before it knows what hit it. Good hunting, Vance said, and left us to our preparations. 12 hours later, we were in the air, flying north over the Scottish Highlands, the mountains below us black against the gray sky. I sat by the window, watching the landscape blur past, and thought about the mission ahead. Capture a Kelpie, A creature from folklore, from nightmares, from the dark water where light never reached. A shapeshifter, a killer, a collector of bodies. I thought about the preserved corpses in that underwater nest, arranged in a circle like worshippers at an altar. I thought about what could do that, what kind of mind could conceive of such a display. The Kelpie wasn't just a monster, it was intelligent, and intelligence made it more dangerous than any beast. "Coming up on drop zone," the pilot announced. 5 minutes. I checked my gear one last time. Electroshock harness, check. Binding rig, check. Tranquilizer pistol, check. Combat knife, check. Faith in folklore, uncertain. "Remember," I said to my team, "this thing can look like anything. It can look like a horse, like a person, like something you've never seen before. Don't trust your eyes, trust your training." "And if training fails?" Kozlov asked. "Then trust your gut and shoot first." The transport descended, bumping on mountain air currents, and we prepared to jump into the unknown. Chapter 3: Into the Highlands. The landing was rough. The drop zone was a small clearing 3 miles from the lock, surrounded by peaks that blocked radio signals and made navigation difficult. We came down fast ropes, hitting the wet ground hard, immediately forming a defensive perimeter while the transport lifted away, the sound of its rotors fading into the mountain wind. "All clear," Singh reported, sweeping the area with his rifle scope. "No contact." "Move out," I ordered. "Double time to base camp." We moved through terrain that would have been beautiful if we weren't hunting a monster. The Cuillin Mountains were stark, dramatic, all dark rock and sudden valleys, shrouded in mist that seemed to cling to everything. The air was cold and tasted of rain, and I could feel the moisture seeping into my gear, my skin, my bones. "Temperature's dropping," O'Connor noted, checking his equipment. "We're getting close to the lock. The microclimate here is insane." "How cold?" I asked. "Air temperature is 5 degrees Celsius. Water will be colder, near freezing." "Good thing we brought wetsuits," Harris said. "The wetsuits are rated for 15 minutes in water that cold," I corrected. "After that, hypothermia sets in. We don't go in the water unless we have no choice." "And if the Kelpie pulls us in?" "Then you fight your way out fast." We reached base camp after 90 minutes of hard marching. It was a prefabricated structure, set up by advanced teams 12 hours earlier, disguised as a weather research station. Inside, we found monitoring equipment, communication gear, and weapons caches that would make a small army jealous. "Welcome to the office," Williams said, already setting up his surveillance station. "I've got drones in the air, sonar in the water, and thermal cameras covering every angle. If anything moves in or on that lock, we'll see it." "Show me the lock," I said. He pulled up a holographic display, and I saw it for the first time. Loch Korowisk, 3 miles of black water nestled in a valley between jagged peaks. The surface was still, mirror-like, reflecting the gray sky. But the sonar readings showed chaos below, thermal layers, current patterns, and something else, something massive that rested at the deepest point. "There," Williams said, highlighting a shape on the display. "That's our target. It's been stationary for the last 4 hours, but it's active. We can see heat signatures, movement of appendages." "What's it doing?" "Hard to say, but look at this." He zoomed in on a secondary reading, showing the circle of bodies we'd seen in the briefing photos. They were still there, still arranged in their pattern, but something had changed. They were closer together now, and the gaps between them had filled with what looked like growth, vegetation, maybe, or something organic. "It's feeding them," Chen said quietly. "The growth, it's keeping them preserved, keeping them fresh." "That's not possible," O'Connor said. "Dead tissue can't be preserved like that without proper embalming." "We're beyond possible, Doc," I reminded him. "This thing defies biology, that's why we're here." We spent the next 6 hours observing, planning, preparing. The Kelpie remained at the bottom of the lock, apparently dormant or waiting. The sun set behind the mountains, turning the sky bruise purple, and the temperature dropped further. I want 2 teams, I decided, studying the holographic map. Team Alpha, me, Harris, Chen, Kozlov, will approach the lock from the north shore where the water is shallowest. We'll set up the trap there, use the binding rig to create a lure. Team Bravo, Patel, Singh, O'Connor, Williams will hold position here, providing overwatch and support. And if the Kelpie takes the bait? Harris asked. Then we spring the trap. Electroshock harness goes on, sedation follows, and we haul it out before it knows what's happening. And if it doesn't take the bait? Then Patel and Singh create a distraction, make enough noise, enough vibration to draw it out. Risky, Kozlov rumbled, if it moves faster than we expect. Then we adapt, that's the job. We moved out at midnight, the darkness broken only by our night vision equipment and the occasional flash of starlight through breaking clouds. The path to the north shore was treacherous, loose rock and sudden drops that could break an ankle or worse. We moved carefully, silently, professional killers on the trail of prey that might be more dangerous than we were. Contact north, Patel's voice crackled in my earpiece. Visual on the lock, surface is still calm. Copy, moving to position. We reached the north shore 30 minutes later, finding a small beach of black sand that sloped gently into the water. I could feel the cold radiating from the lock, even through my insulated gear. The water was absolutely still, mirror perfect, reflecting the stars with a clarity that seemed unnatural. Set up the rig, I ordered. Kozlov and Chen assembled the binding rig, a complex structure of straps and electrodes that looked like a cross between a saddle and an electric chair. They placed it on the sand, just at the water's edge, and activated the power supply. The rig hummed to life, emitting a low-frequency vibration that I could feel in my teeth. It's active, Chen confirmed. The field extends about 10 meters into the water. If the Kelpie enters the zone, it should be drawn to the vibration. Should be, Harris muttered. It's the best we have. We took positions, hiding behind rocks and outcrops, weapons ready, waiting. The minutes stretched into hours, the cold seeping deeper into our bones. The lock remained still, undisturbed, as if mocking our presence. Maybe it's not interested, O'Connor suggested over the comms. Or maybe it knows we're here, I replied. Maybe it's watching, waiting for us to make a mistake. Comforting. Patience. These things operate on different time scales than we do. It could take hours, days even. We don't have days. The weather's getting worse. If a storm rolls in, extraction becomes problematic. Then we hope it's hungry. Another hour passed. I was beginning to think we'd need to switch to Plan B, to have Patel and Singh create a disturbance, when Williams's voice cut through the comms with an edge of panic. Movement, deep contact, 200 meters, rising fast. Visual, I demanded. Negative, no visual yet, but sonar shows, Jesus, it's moving fast. Estimated speed 30 knots, heading directly for your position. 30 knots. Faster than any boat we had, faster than anything should be able to move in water that cold. I felt my heart rate spike, the familiar cocktail of fear and adrenaline that preceded violence. Positions, I ordered. Weapons ready, hold fire until I give the word. We waited, frozen, as the thing approached. The water remained still, betraying nothing of what moved beneath. 30 knots, 2010, and then it surfaced. The Kelpie rose from the water like a nightmare given flesh. It was in horse form, but wrong, so wrong. The body was equine, yes, but larger than any horse should be, easily 16 hands at the shoulder, maybe more. The coat was black, but not normal black. It shimmered with colors that shouldn't exist, greens and purples that shifted and flowed like oil on water. The mane was not hair, but something else, something that moved independently, like seaweed or tentacles. And the eyes were the worst. They were human eyes set in a horse's skull, filled with intelligence and malice and hunger. They fixed on me immediately, ignoring the others, and I felt a pressure in my mind, a presence trying to push inside. "Don't look at its eyes," I shouted, breaking eye contact. "Focus on the body, spring the trap." Kozlov hit the trigger, and the electroshock harness deployed, a net of conductive wires that surrounded the Kelpie, delivering 50,000 volts in a fraction of a second. The creature screamed. It was a sound like nothing I'd ever heard, a mixture of horse's whinny and human scream and something deeper, something that resonated in my chest and made my vision blur. It thrashed, water spraying, and I saw its spine extend, vertebrae stretching, growing longer, accommodating the shock and the constraint. "It's working," Chen cried. "The field is containing it." "Sedatives now." O'Connor was already moving, darting forward with the tranquilizer gun, firing 3 darts in rapid succession. They hit the Kelpie's flank, buried themselves in that impossible coat, and the creature's thrashing slowed. "It's working, it's going down." But even as the Kelpie's movement slowed, something was wrong. The water around it was boiling, churning, and the pressure in my mind was increasing, a voice whispering things I couldn't quite make out, promises and threats and ancient secrets. "Get back," I shouted. "Everyone back, it's doing something." Too late. The Kelpie changed. Horse form dissolved, melting like wax, and what emerged from that dissolution was worse than anything we could have imagined. It was still equine in part, but combined with something else, something aquatic and alien. The body elongated further, becoming serpentine with too many legs that ended in webbed claws. The head split open, revealing a mouth lined with hundreds of needle teeth, and the eyes, those terrible human eyes, multiplied, spreading across the creature's face like a spider's cluster of eyes. "Holy Mother of God," Harris breathed. The Kelpie lunged. It moved faster than anything that size should be able to move, faster than human reflexes could track. Kozlov was closest, and the creature hit him like a freight train, knocking him 10 feet through the air to crash against a boulder. I heard bones break, saw blood spray, and then the Kelpie was on him, claws raking, teeth tearing. "Kozlov," I screamed, opening fire. The rest of us opened up, bullets tearing into the Kelpie's flesh, but it didn't stop. The wounds closed as fast as we made them, flesh knitting together with supernatural speed. It fed on Kozlov for 5 seconds, maybe 10, and then turned to us, blood dripping from its muzzle, multiple eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "Fall back," I ordered. "To the extraction point, move." We ran, abandoning the equipment, abandoning the plan, just trying to survive. The Kelpie didn't follow immediately. It stood over Kozlov's remains, feeding, savoring the kill. That gave us time, precious seconds to put distance between us and death. "O'Connor, check Kozlov. Is he alive?" "Negative, Captain. I'm getting no vitals." "Damn it, Williams, we need extraction now." "Negative on extraction. The storms moved in faster than expected. Transport can't get through. You're on your own for at least 6 hours. 6 hours. With a monster that had just killed one of my team and was still hungry. 6 hours in the dark, in the cold, with something that could look like anything, be anything, that was faster and stronger and nearly impossible to kill. "Change of plan," I said, my voice grim. "New objective, survive until dawn." Chapter 4, First Contact. We ran through darkness that felt alive, the mountains pressing close around us, the mist turning into rain that soaked through our gear and chilled us to the bone. Behind us, back at the lock, the Kelpie fed on Kozlov's remains, and I knew that when it finished it would hunt us. It knew our scent now, our fear, our weakness. It would come. "Status," I demanded over the comms, gasping for breath as we climbed a slope of loose scree. "Patel here, Bravo team is mobile. We've got your position on thermal. The Kelpie is still at the lock shore, but it's changing again." "Changing how?" "It's smaller now, compact. I think it's taking a different shape, human maybe." "Everyone watch for strangers," I ordered. Anything that moves, anything that looks human treated as hostile. Roger. We reached a ridge line and paused, huddling behind a spine of rock that offered minimal cover. I took stock of what remained of Alpha Team. Me, Harris, Chen, and O'Connor. 4 out of 5, Kozlov torn apart in the first 30 seconds of contact. The mission had gone from difficult to catastrophic in less than a minute. Options, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. The extraction point is 3 miles south, but the transport can't reach us for 6 hours. We need shelter, defensive position, something that gives us an advantage. There's a shepherd's hut, Chen said, consulting her tactical display. 2 miles east near the tree line. Stone construction, single entrance, small windows. Defensible. More than open ground. Then we move. Harris take point, Chen cover our 6, O'Connor stay close to me. We moved, maintaining spacing, weapons ready. The rain intensified, becoming sleet that stung exposed skin and reduced visibility to arm's length. I could barely see Harris 10 feet ahead, could only track him by the sound of his movement. Contact, Patel's voice cut through the static. Southwest, 200 meters from your position, humanoid shape moving fast. Identification. Negative, it's wrong, the gate is wrong. Can you engage? Negative, no clear shot, it's using the terrain. Track it, keep us informed. We kept moving, faster now, knowing that something was stalking us. The Kelpie had taken human form or something close to it, and it was hunting. The legend said it could appear as a beautiful stranger, as a lost child, as someone in need of help. It used deception to lure victims close, then revealed its true nature. I see it, Harris said suddenly, his voice tight. 12 o'clock, 50 meters, standing by that rock formation. I looked and saw it. A figure, hunched against the rain, wearing what looked like a long coat or cloak. It was facing away from us, head down, seemingly oblivious to our presence. Don't approach, I warned. Keep your distance. It might be a hiker, O'Connor said. A civilian. In this weather, at this hour, no one hikes these mountains at night. The figure turned slowly, and even from 50 meters I could see that something was wrong. The face was human, almost beautiful, but the proportions were off, too long, too narrow, the eyes set too wide apart. And when it smiled, the teeth were wrong, too many of them, sharp and white in the darkness. Kelpie confirmed, I said quietly, weapons ready. The creature raised one hand and waved, a gesture that was almost friendly, almost welcoming. Then it spoke, and its voice carried clearly through the rain, though it should have been too far away to hear. Come, it said. I am cold, I am wet, help me. Don't listen, I warned. Cover your ears if you have to. Please, the Kelpie continued. I am lost, I am hurt. Help me find shelter. Open fire, I ordered. We fired a volley of bullets that should have cut the creature down. But the Kelpie moved, faster than the eye could track, sliding sideways like water, and the shots passed through empty air. It laughed, a sound like bubbling water, like drowning. You are rude, it said. I only want company, I only want warmth. Fall back, I ordered. Maintain distance. We retreated, keeping our weapons trained on the creature, but it didn't pursue immediately. It watched us go, that terrible smile still fixed on its face, and I knew it was enjoying this. The hunt, the chase, the terror. This was what it lived for. We reached the shepherd's hut after 40 minutes of desperate travel, the Kelpie following at a distance, never quite closing the gap, never quite letting us escape. The hut was small, stone walls and a slate roof, a single door and 2 windows too narrow for anything larger than a cat to enter. Inside, I ordered. Chen, set charges on the approach. Harris, cover the door. O'Connor, check our supplies. We crowded into the hut, 10 feet square with a dirt floor and a stone hearth. It smelled of sheep and old smoke, but it was shelter, a barrier between us and the storm, between us and the thing that hunted. Charges set, Chen reported, coming through the door. "Tripwires on the north and east approaches. Anything heavier than a deer will trigger them." "Good." "Captain," O'Connor said quietly, pulling me aside. "I need to talk to you." "What is it?" "The Kelpie. It's not just hunting us, it's playing with us. The folklore says they enjoy the chase, the fear. They feed on it as much as the flesh." "I know. But there's more. The stories say they can be bound, controlled, but only by someone who knows their true name, their secret name." "And do you know it?" "No, but I think I know how to find it." He produced a device from his pack, something I'd never seen before. A disc of metal and crystal, covered in symbols that seemed to shift when I looked at them directly. "What is that?" "A resonance detector. It maps supernatural frequencies, identifies the unique signature of paranormal entities. If the Kelpie has a true name, it will have a corresponding frequency. If we can identify that frequency, we can use it against the creature." "In theory." "Do it." O'Connor activated the device, and it began to hum, a low vibration that made my teeth ache. He moved it in a slow circle, eyes closed, concentrating. "I'm getting readings," he said. "Multiple frequencies. The Kelpie is broadcasting on several bands." "Can you isolate the primary?" "Working on it." Outside, something scratched against the door. We all froze, weapons raised, staring at the thick wood that was all that separated us from death. "Let me in," the Kelpie's voice came, soft and insidious. "I am cold, I am wet. Let me warm myself by your fire." "Ignore it," I ordered. "O'Connor, keep working." The scratching continued, rhythmic, deliberate. Then it stopped, and a new sound began, a song, low and haunting, in a language I didn't recognize. The melody was beautiful, achingly so, and I felt my grip on my weapon loosen. "Don't listen," Chen shouted. "Cover your ears." I shoved my fingers into my ears, blocking the sound, and saw the others do the same. But even muffled, the song reached me, promising things I had thought long forgotten: peace, rest, an end to the fighting and the fear. I could open the door. I could let the Kelpie in. It would be so easy. "Got it," O'Connor cried, his voice breaking the spell. "The primary frequency, it's here." He showed me the device, the screen displaying a waveform that pulsed in time with my heartbeat. "This is its core signature, its true name, translated into sound. If we can broadcast this frequency at high volume." What will happen?" "In theory, it should bind the creature, limit its ability to change shape. It might even put it to sleep." "Might." "It's untested technology, Captain." "Then we test it. Williams, Bravo team, do you copy?" "Copy, Alpha." "We need a distraction, something to draw the Kelpie away from this position. Can you provide?" "Roger. We can launch fireworks, create a thermal signature about half a mile west. Should draw its attention." "Do it." Seconds later, I heard the distant crack of launched flares, saw the red light paint the sky through the hut's small windows. The scratching at the door stopped, and the song faded. "It's moving," Patel reported, "heading toward the decoy." "How long?" 2 minutes, maybe 3. "O'Connor, we need that broadcast ready now." "Working on it. I need to amplify the signal, and I need a power source." "Use the spare batteries. Use everything." He worked feverishly, wiring the resonance detector into a portable speaker system, jury-rigging connections that should have taken hours in mere seconds. Outside, the storm intensified, wind howling against the stone walls, rain lashing the windows. "Kelpie is returning," Patel warned. "It didn't take the bait, it's coming back to you." "How long?" 30 seconds. "O'Connor." "Almost got it ready." "Broadcast now." He hit the switch, and the speaker system erupted with sound, not the Kelpie's haunting song, but something else, something that made my skull vibrate and my vision blur. It was the creature's true name, its core frequency, weaponized into a sonic assault. The effect was immediate and terrifying. Outside the hut, the Kelpie screamed, a sound of pure agony that drowned out even the broadcast. I heard it thrashing, crashing against the walls, the door, the windows. Stone chips flew as claws raked the exterior, but the hut held. "It's working," O'Connor shouted. "The binding is taking hold. Keep broadcasting, don't stop." I risked a glance through the window and saw the Kelpie in its true form. Not horse, not human, but something between, something worse. It was writhing on the ground, body spasming, multiple limbs flailing. The broadcast was hurting it, weakening it, binding it to this form, preventing it from changing, from escaping. "Chen, get the capture gear. We need to restrain it while it's vulnerable." She grabbed the electroshock harness from her pack, the portable version we'd brought as backup, and together we burst from the hut, O'Connor following with the speaker system, maintaining the broadcast. The Kelpie saw us coming and tried to rise, tried to flee, but the binding held it. It could only writhe, helpless, as we approached with the harness. "Now," I ordered. We threw the harness over the creature, Chen and I pulling the straps tight, activating the electroshock field. 50,000 volts surged through the Kelpie, and it convulsed, muscles locking, that terrible mouth opening in a silent scream. "More power," Chen yelled. "It's still conscious." We dialed up the voltage, pushing the system to its limits, and finally the Kelpie went still, its body slumping, those multiple eyes glazing over. "It's down," O'Connor confirmed. "Vitals are, well, it's still alive if that's what you call it." "Secure it," I ordered, gasping for breath. "Full restraints, don't take any chances." We worked quickly, binding the creature with every tool we had, carbon fiber cables, titanium chains, electrode patches attached to portable batteries. We wrapped it like a mummy, leaving only its eyes visible, and even those we covered with a blindfold of lead-lined cloth. "Alpha to Bravo," I called, my hands shaking from adrenaline and cold. "Target is secured. Repeat, target is secured." "Copy, Alpha. Outstanding work." "Casualty report. Kozlov is KIA, the rest of us are functional." "Understood. Extraction is still 4 hours out. Can you hold position?" I looked at the bound Kelpie, at the writhing shape beneath the restraints, and knew that 4 hours was a long time. "We'll hold," I said, "but we're going to need that transport exactly on time." "Roger. Bravo team is moving to reinforce your position." I leaned against the stone wall of the hut, suddenly exhausted. We had done it. We had captured a Kelpie, a creature from folklore, a monster that had killed 23 people. We had bound it, subdued it, and now we just had to keep it contained until help arrived. But as I watched the creature struggle against its bonds, I knew that this was only the beginning. The Kelpie was intelligent, patient, and infinitely patient. It would wait for its chance, and when it came, it would be deadly. We had captured the monster. Now we just had to survive it. Chapter 5: The Lure. The 4 hours until extraction were the longest of my life. We maintained a constant vigil, rotating watch, keeping our weapons trained on the bound Kelpie while the others rested or tended wounds. The creature didn't speak, didn't move, didn't acknowledge our presence, but we could feel its attention, its awareness, its hunger. "It's waiting," O'Connor said during my watch, "biding its time." For what? For weakness, for opportunity, for one of us to make a mistake. Then we don't make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, Captain. It's what makes us human. I'm not feeling very human right now. No, neither am I. We sat in silence, watching the bound form, listening to the wind and the rain. The storm was worsening, lightning flickering across the mountains, thunder shaking the ground. It would be a miracle if the transport could get through. "Captain," Williams's voice crackled over the comms. "Be advised, we've got movement on the lock, multiple contacts." Multiple how many? At least 3, maybe more. They're converging on your position. The Kelpie's not alone, I breathed. There are more of them. That would explain the nest, Chen said, waking from her brief rest. A breeding pair, a family. We captured one. The others are coming to free it. Or coming to feed. Either way, we need to move, now. We scrambled to our feet, gathering our gear, preparing to abandon the hut. But the Kelpie was still bound, still heavy, and we couldn't carry it through the mountains in this weather. We need to lighten the load, Harris said. Remove some of the restraints, just enough to make it mobile. Too dangerous, I objected, if it breaks free. If we don't, we die here. Those things will be on us in minutes. I made the decision, hating it but seeing no alternative. Remove the heavy chains. Keep the electroshock harness and the carbon fiber cables. We'll drag it if we have to. We worked quickly, stripping away the titanium bonds, leaving only the essential restraints. The Kelpie stirred as we touched it, muscles tensing beneath the remaining bonds, but the electroshock field kept it subdued. Move out, I ordered. South toward the extraction point, double time. We dragged the Kelpie between us, 6 of us sharing the weight, while Harris and Chen covered our retreat. The creature was heavy, impossibly so, as if its body was made of something denser than normal matter. Every step was a struggle, every yard gained paid for in sweat and strain. They're gaining, Patel warned. 300 meters and closing. Visual. Negative, they're staying in the mist, but I can hear them. I listened and heard it too, the sound of water moving, of something large displacing liquid, of voices that were almost human whispering in the darkness. Don't listen, I warned. Whatever they say, whatever they promise, don't listen. We crested a ridge and started down the other side, the slope treacherous with loose rock and ice. The Kelpie seemed to grow heavier, as if the earth itself was trying to hold it back, and I wondered if the creature was doing something, if it had abilities we hadn't anticipated. It's fighting us, Chen gasped. I can feel it pushing back. Keep moving. Captain, look. O'Connor pointed and I saw them. 3 shapes emerging from the mist behind us. They were in human form, 2 men and a woman, all beautiful, all terrible, their faces too perfect, their movements too fluid. They smiled as they saw us, and their teeth glinted in the lightning flash. Leave our sibling, one said, the woman's voice like water over stones. Leave it and go, and we will let you live. No, I said, raising my weapon. We have our orders. Orders, the man laughed. Human orders, brief things soon forgotten. We're taking it with us, stand aside. You cannot stop us, you are food, you are prey. They moved and they were fast, so fast. Harris opened fire, Chen beside him, and the sound of automatic weapons filled the night. But the Kelpies were already moving, sliding aside, evading with supernatural grace. One of them, the second man, reached Chen before she could react. He touched her face gently, almost lovingly, and she froze, her expression going slack, her weapon falling from nerveless fingers. Chen, I screamed. The Kelpie pulled her close, embracing her like a lover, and then his mouth opened wider than any human mouth should open, and he bit down on her neck, tearing through flesh and muscle and bone. Blood sprayed, arterial and bright, and Chen's body convulsed once, twice, then went still. No, I fired, emptying my magazine, but the Kelpie had already dropped Chen's body and was moving, dodging, laughing. Your turn, he said, reaching for me. But Harris was there, grabbing me, pulling me back. Move, Captain, move. We ran, abandoning Chen's body, abandoning all pretense of fighting. The other Kelpies pursued, the woman and the first man, their laughter echoing through the mountains. They were hurting us, I realized, driving us toward some destination of their choosing. The lock, O'Connor gasped, as we stumbled down the slope. They're driving us back to the lock. We can't go there. We don't have a choice. The terrain forced us down toward the water's edge, and I saw the trap. The Kelpies had planned this, had anticipated our escape route, had cut off every path but the one that led to their domain. They're smart, I realized. They're smarter than we thought. They've been hunting humans for centuries, O'Connor said. They know how we think. We reached the shore, the black water lapping at our boots, and turned to face our pursuers. The three Kelpies emerged from the mist, walking slowly, confidently, knowing they had us cornered. "Give us our sibling," the woman said, "and we will make your deaths quick." "Never," I said. "Then you will drown," she said, slowly, painfully. They charged and we fired, and the battle was joined. Chapter 6: The Trap Springs. The fight was desperate, chaotic, a nightmare of muzzle flashes and screams and blood. I saw Harris go down, a Kelpie's claws raking his chest, opening him from sternum to navel. He fell, trying to hold his insides in, and I knew he was dead even as he hit the ground. O'Connor fought beside me, the resonance device in one hand, his pistol in the other. He managed to tag one of the Kelpies with the device, sending a burst of binding frequency that made the creature scream and recoil. But the other two were on us, and we were outnumbered, outmatched, out of time. "The water," I shouted. "Get to the water." "Are you insane?" O'Connor yelled. "Trust me." I dragged the bound Kelpie, our captive, toward the lock's edge, O'Connor following, confused but obedient. The other Kelpies hesitated, uncertain, and I used that moment of doubt. "You want it," I screamed. "Come and get it." I shoved the bound Kelpie into the water, the electroshock harness still active, and the effect was immediate and devastating. The water around the creature exploded with electricity, current arcing through the liquid, conducting through the entire lock surface. The Kelpies screamed, caught in the field, their bodies convulsing as the electricity surged through them. They thrashed, tried to flee, but the water was their element, their home, and it had become their prison. O'Connor now broadcast the frequency, full power. He didn't question, just activated the resonance device at maximum output. The combined effect, electricity and binding frequency, was too much for the Kelpies. They collapsed one by one, sinking into the water, their beautiful human forms dissolving into something else, something wrong. "It's working," O'Connor cried. "They're down, all of them. Secure them quickly." We dragged the unconscious Kelpies from the water, 4 of them now, including our original captive. We bound them with everything we had left, cables and chains and straps, layering restraint upon restraint until they were cocooned in metal and synthetic fiber. "Alpha to Bravo," I gasped, my hands trembling. "Target secured, multiple targets secured." "Copy Alpha, extraction is inbound, ETA 10 minutes. "Make it 5, we don't know how long they'll stay down." "Roger." We waited, O'Connor and I, 2 survivors from a team of 12, surrounded by 4 bound monsters that could wake at any moment. The rain continued, the storm raged, and the dead lay scattered around us. Chen, Harris, Kozlov, and the others who had fallen in the night. "We did it," O'Connor said quietly. "We captured them." "We survived," I corrected. "There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yes, capturing them was the mission. Surviving was luck." "I'll take luck." "So will I." The transport appeared through the storm, a black shape against the gray sky, and we loaded the bound Kelpies aboard, one by one, securing them to the deck with heavy chains. They didn't wake, didn't move, but I could feel their attention, their awareness, even through the restraints. "Where are we taking them?" O'Connor asked, as the transport lifted into the air. "Facility 9, I said, "where they can be studied, controlled." "And if they can't be controlled?" "Then we kill them, all of them." He nodded, looking out at the mountains receding below us, at the lock that had claimed so many lives. "Do you think we did the right thing, capturing them instead of killing them?" "I think we followed orders." That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. The transport flew on, carrying us toward a facility that most of the world didn't know existed, toward a future where monsters were studied instead of destroyed. I didn't know if we had made the right choice. I didn't know if there was a right choice. All I knew was that I was alive, that O'Connor was alive, and that 4 creatures of nightmare were bound and helpless at our feet. For now, that was enough. But as I watched the Kelpies, I saw one of them move, just slightly, a twitch of a finger, a shift of an eye beneath the blindfold. They were awake, they were listening, they were waiting. And I knew that this was far from over. Chapter 7: Subduing the Beast. The transport flew low over the North Sea, hugging the waves to avoid radar detection, flying a route that didn't exist on any civilian map. I sat across from the bound Kelpies, my weapon in my lap, my eyes never leaving their still forms. They hadn't moved since we'd loaded them, hadn't made a sound, but I could feel their presence like a pressure in my skull, a weight on my chest. O'Connor sat beside me, monitoring the resonance device, making sure the binding frequency remained constant. "Power's holding," he reported, "but it's draining fast. We've got maybe 6 hours before we need to recharge." "Will that be enough?" "Facility 9 is 4 hours out. We should make it with time to spare." "Should." "It's the best I can give you, Captain." I nodded, accepting the uncertainty. It was all we'd had since the mission started: uncertainty, improvisation, desperate gambits that somehow paid off. We'd gone in with a plan and watched it fall apart in the first 30 seconds. We'd improvised, adapted, overcome, and we'd paid for it in blood. "How many?" I asked quietly. "How many what?" "Dead. How many did we lose?" O'Connor was silent for a moment, calculating. "Kozlov, Chen Harris, that's confirmed. Patel and Singh, Bravo team, they were hit when the Kelpies converged on the hut. I saw their vitals flatline on the monitor. Williams went down trying to protect the resonance equipment. That's 7. 7 out of 12. Plus the advance team that set up the base camp. 4 more. 11 total. 11 dead. More than half my command gone in a single night. I'd led men and women into combat before, had lost people before, but never like this. Never so many, so fast, against an enemy that defied everything we knew about warfare." "The Kelpies," O'Connor asked, "what do we know about them now?" "More than we did. They're intelligent, they hunt in packs, they can communicate, coordinate, plan. They're not just predators, they're civilization. A civilization that views us as food. And their abilities, shape-shifting. The binding frequency seems to limit that. As long as we maintain the broadcast, they should stay in their current forms." "Which is?" I looked at the bound creatures. Under the layers of restraints I could see their true nature, not the beautiful human forms they'd used to deceive us, not the horse forms of the legends, but something else. Something that combined elements of both, with added horrors. Their bodies were elongated, serpentine, with too many limbs that ended in webbed claws. Their faces, still covered by lead-lined cloth, were wrong, stretched, filled with too many teeth. "Their natural form," I said, "or as close as we've seen." "And the electricity, the water." "Conductivity. They use water, live in it, but they're vulnerable to electricity when they're submerged. It's like a nervous system. The water transmits the current through their entire body." "Useful to know. If we survive long enough to use it." The transport bucked, hitting turbulence, and I gripped my seat as the Kelpies slid across the deck. One of them, the female, I thought, made a sound, a low moan that wasn't quite human, wasn't quite animal. "It's waking," O'Connor said, fear in his voice. "The binding is slipping." "Increase power." "I can't, we're already at maximum." The female Kelpie thrashed, muscles bulging against the restraints. The carbon fiber cables groaned, stretched, began to fray. The electroshock harness sparked, warning lights flashing red. Sedatives, I ordered, grabbing the tranquilizer pistol. Hit it. I fired 3 darts into the creature's body and it convulsed, thrashing harder, then suddenly went still. But the harness was damaged, cables snapped, the electrical field flickering. "It's going to break free," O'Connor shouted. "Restrain it now." We lunged, me and O'Connor and the 2 surviving Bravo team members. I didn't even know their names, couldn't remember them through the adrenaline, grabbing cables, chains, anything we could find. We wrapped the female Kelpie in layers of metal, binding it tighter, securing it until it looked like a cocoon of industrial waste. "That was close," O'Connor panted. "Too close. We're going to need better containment before we reach the facility." "What do you suggest?" "Isolation, separation. If they're together, they can support each other. Divide them and they're weaker." We moved the Kelpies to opposite ends of the transport, as far apart as the space allowed. It wasn't much, maybe 20 feet, but it seemed to help. The pressure in my skull eased slightly, the sense of being watched, being judged, fading to a background hum. "It helps," O'Connor confirmed. "The resonance readings are stabilizing." "Good, keep them separated." The rest of the flight passed in tense silence. I watched the Kelpies and they watched me. I was certain of it, even through the blindfolds. They were aware, conscious, calculating. They were waiting for their moment. 4 hours later, we reached Facility 9. Chapter 8: Transport. Facility 9 rose from the North Sea like a fortress, a concrete platform that had once been an oil rig, converted now into something else entirely. It was a research station, a prison, a laboratory all in one, surrounded by water on all sides, accessible only by air or sea. The perfect place to study things that couldn't be allowed to escape. The transport circled once, identifying itself with coded signals, and was cleared to land on the facility's helipad. As we touched down, I saw personnel emerging from hatches, armed guards in hazmat suits, scientists with clipboards and anxious expressions. Dr. McAllister, a man in a white coat, approached, extending a hand. "I'm Dr. Aris, director of the facility. We received word of your success." "Success is a relative term," I said, not shaking his hand. "We have 4 Kelpies in custody. We lost 11 people capturing them." "Yes, the casualties were unfortunate, but the specimens are intact." "They're alive. Whether they're intact depends on your definition." He nodded, unfazed by my hostility. "Let's get them to containment. We have facilities prepared." We unloaded the Kelpies, still bound, still sedated, onto gurneys that had been modified with extra restraints and electrical systems. The facility personnel handled them with practiced efficiency, moving them through corridors that were painted a calming blue but felt like the inside of a tomb. "This way," Dr. Aris said, leading us deeper into the facility. "The containment cells are below water level." "Below water level?" O'Connor asked. "Is that why they're aquatic creatures?" "Precisely. We need to keep them in their natural environment but controlled. Each cell is a watertight chamber with independent circulation, temperature control, and observation capabilities." "And if they escape?" "They can't. The cells are surrounded by electrified mesh, and the water is treated with chemicals that would incapacitate them before they could breach the outer walls." "You hope?" "We know. We've studied similar entities before." We reached the containment level, a vast space filled with cylindrical tanks, each one large enough to hold a bus. Most were empty, dark, but 4 were lit from within, filled with water that glowed with faint bioluminescence. "Your Kelpies will be the first inhabitants," Dr. Aris said proudly. "We've never had specimens this intact." "Intact," I tasted the word. "They're living creatures, doctor, not specimens." Of course, a figure of speech. They transferred the Kelpies into the tanks, still bound, still blindfolded. The water closed over them, and I watched as they began to move, slowly at first, then with more purpose, testing their restraints, exploring their new prison. The bindings, Dr. Aris asked. Should remain in place for now, I said. They're still dangerous. But we'll need to study them, examine them. The bindings will interfere with our observations. Then observe them bound. Until we know more about what they can do, we don't take chances. Captain, with respect. That wasn't a suggestion, Doctor. It was an order. The Kelpies stay restrained until I say otherwise. He looked like he wanted to argue, but something in my expression stopped him. Very well, but I'll need to document this decision. Document away. I turned away, leaving the Kelpies to their tanks, and followed O'Connor to the debriefing room. We had reports to file, accounts to give, explanations to make for why 11 people had died to capture 4 monsters. But as I walked away, I felt eyes on me, attention focused, and I knew that the Kelpies were watching me go. They would remember me, they would remember all of us. And they would be waiting. Chapter 9, The Journey. The debriefing took 6 hours. 6 hours of questions, of recordings, of psychologists and intelligence officers and bureaucrats who had never seen a Kelpie demanding to know why we hadn't followed protocol, why we had improvised, why we had survived when so many had died. I answered as best I could. I explained the mission, the failures, the adaptations. I described the Kelpies' abilities, their intelligence, their pack behavior. I gave them everything I knew, everything I had learned in the heat of battle, and I watched them take notes with expressions that ranged from fascination to disbelief. "You're saying they can communicate telepathically?" one officer asked. "I'm saying they can project thoughts, feelings, impressions. I felt them in my head, pushing, probing. They tried to make us afraid, to make us doubt, to make us open the door. And you resisted." "We all did. That's why we're still alive." The questions went on, endless, repetitive, as if they were trying to catch me in a lie or find some inconsistency in my account. But I had nothing to hide. I had done my job, followed my orders, adapted when the situation demanded it. "One more question, Captain," the lead interrogator said. "A woman severe with eyes that saw too much. The Kelpies, you captured 4 of them, but the intelligence suggested there were more, many more. Where are the others?" "Others?" "The nest, Captain, the preserved bodies. 23 of them arranged in a pattern. That suggests a community, a society. The 4 you captured couldn't have killed all those people alone." "We only saw 4. But you felt others." I thought back to the lock, to the voices in the mist, the presence that had seemed to surround us. Maybe there were whispers, movements in the water we couldn't identify, but we didn't see them. So there could be more. There could be. She made a note, something I couldn't read. "Thank you, Captain, that will be all." I was dismissed, sent to quarters that were comfortable but clearly a cell, albeit a comfortable one. I was a security risk now, someone who knew too much, who had seen too much. They would watch me, monitor me, until they were sure I wasn't compromised. O'Connor joined me an hour later, looking as exhausted as I felt. "They grilled you too?" I asked. "For hours. They want to know everything about the resonance device, how it works, how we found the frequency." "What did you tell them?" "Everything. It's not like it's secret. I developed it from open-source research on sound therapy and bioresonance." "And they believed you?" "They didn't have a choice. The device worked. The Kelpies are captured, that's proof enough." "For now." We sat in silence. 2 survivors, 2 killers, 2 people who had crossed a line and couldn't go back. "What happens now?" O'Connor asked. "Now we wait. They'll study the Kelpies, learn what they can, decide what to do with them." "And us?" "We'll be reassigned. New team, new mission. If we're lucky, we get a few weeks of leave first. And if we're not lucky, then we go back out immediately. There's always another monster, another nightmare, Another hole in the world that needs to be plugged. Is that what we are, plugs? We're soldiers, O'Connor. We go where we're sent, fight what we're told to fight, die when our number comes up. That's the job. It's a shit job. It's the only job we have. We slept eventually, fitfully, haunted by dreams of water and teeth and eyes that watched from the darkness. When I woke, there was a message waiting. The Kelpies were awake, active, and asking to speak with me. Chapter 10, Facility 9. I found Dr. Aris in the observation room, staring at the Kelpie tanks through reinforced glass that was supposedly capable of stopping a shaped charge. He looked worried, more worried than he had when we'd arrived. "They're asking for you," he said without preamble. "Asking?" "Speaking in English in your voice. They want to talk to Captain McAllister." "How do they know my name?" "They must have picked it up from the facility's systems. They're intelligent, Captain, more intelligent than we expected." "I told you that." "You did, but hearing it and seeing it are different things." I approached the glass, looking into the tank that held the female Kelpie, the one who had almost broken free on the transport. She was floating in the water, suspended, her multiple limbs splayed in a position that looked almost like relaxation. Her head turned as I approached, and even through the water and the glass, I felt her attention focus on me. "Captain," her voice came, not through the water but in my mind, clear as a bell. "We are pleased you came. I'm not here to socialize." "No, you are here to be judged." "Judged?" "For your crimes, for the deaths you caused, for the bonds you placed upon us. You killed 11 of my people. I don't think I'm the one who needs to be judged." 11 of yours, how many of ours? How many did you kill before we met?" "I don't know what you're talking about." "You are a killer, Captain, a destroyer. You have ended more lives than you can count, human and otherwise. We know this. We can taste it on you, the blood, the death." "I'm a soldier. I do what needs to be done." "As do we. We hunt because we must eat. We kill because we must survive. Is that so different from what you do?" "You kill innocents." "And you do not." I had no answer to that. I thought of the missions I'd been on, the lives I'd taken, the justifications I'd made. Were they so different from the Kelpies? "You want something," I said. "You didn't ask me here for philosophy." "No, we want a bargain." "What kind of bargain?" "Release us, return us to the lock. In exchange, we will give you knowledge, secrets that your kind has forgotten, power that you have lost." "And if I refuse?" "Then you will learn nothing, and we will wait. We are patient, Captain. We have waited centuries. We can wait centuries more." I turned to Dr. Aris. "Can we communicate with them normally, without the telepathy?" "We can install speakers in the tanks. It will take time." "Do it. I don't like them in my head." "As you wish." I turned back to the tank. "I'll consider your offer, but I'm not making any deals while you're in my mind. We'll talk again when the speakers are installed." "We will be waiting, Captain. We are always waiting." I left the observation room, my heart pounding, my mind racing. They were bargaining. That meant they were afraid, or at least concerned. They thought they could be held indefinitely, studied, dissected. They wanted out. And they were willing to trade for their freedom. But what could they offer that would be worth the risk of releasing them? What knowledge, what power could justify letting 4 killers go free? I didn't know, but I intended to find out. Chapter 11, Interrogation. The speakers were installed within the hour, a testament to the facility's resources and Dr. Aris's determination. We gathered in the observation room again, a larger group this time. Me, O'Connor, Aris, and several scientists whose names I didn't bother to learn. We were there to negotiate, to extract whatever information the Kelpies were willing to offer. "Begin," I said, activating the microphone. "Captain," the female Kelpie's voice came through the speakers, distorted by the water but recognizable. We are pleased you have accepted our invitation. It's not an invitation when I'm the one holding the keys. Let's be clear about the power dynamic here. Power is an illusion, Captain. You think you hold it because you have steel and electricity, but we have time, we have patience, and we have knowledge that you need. Then share it. Convince me you're worth keeping alive. Very well, ask your questions. What are you? We are the old ones, the waterborn. We were here before your kind walked upright, and we will be here when your cities are dust. How many of you are there? Many, hundreds, thousands. We are a nation, Captain, a civilization that spans the waters of your world. And the ones we captured. A family, a mother, father, and 2 children. I felt a chill. Children, we had captured children. The nest, the preserved bodies, that was your work. A nursery, a place to keep food fresh for the young. You keep humans as food storage. You keep cattle in pens. Is this so different? We're not cattle. To us you are soft, slow, abundant. You breed faster than we can consume. You are the perfect prey. And you think telling me this will make me want to release you. No, but telling you what is coming might. What is coming? The awakening. The old powers are stirring. The ones that slept before we were born. They are waking, Captain, and when they do, your world will burn. More monsters. More than you can imagine. Giants that walk the land. Beasts that rule the sky. Things that live in the spaces between atoms. They are coming and you are not ready. And you can help us prepare. We can teach you. Show you how to fight, how to survive, how to bind and banish. We have knowledge that your kind has forgotten, rituals that can turn the tide. In exchange for your freedom. In exchange for our freedom, and the freedom of our kind. That's a high price. The survival of your species is worth it, is it not? I looked at Dr. Aris, at O'Connor, at the scientists who were scribbling notes and recording everything. This was bigger than I had thought, bigger than the mission, bigger than the facility, bigger than anything I had encountered before. I need to consult with my superiors, I said. Of course, but do not take too long, Captain. The awakening has already begun, and the first of the old ones are already walking. Which ones? You have met them already, the ones you call Pyasa and Thunderbird. They are only the beginning. I felt ice in my veins. We had been dealing with isolated incidents, separate missions, different monsters. But if they were connected, if they were part of something larger. I'll be back, I said, deactivating the microphone. We will be waiting, the Kelpie replied. We are always waiting. Chapter 12, The Kelpie Speaks. The consultation took 3 hours. 3 hours of coded messages, of secure video conferences, of people in suits and uniforms who outranked me by miles debating whether to trust the word of monsters. In the end, the decision was made. We would negotiate. We would extract what knowledge we could, verify it through other sources, and then decide whether to honor any bargain we made. They're lying, O'Connor said as we walked back to the containment level. They have to be. Maybe, but what if they're not? What if there really is something coming, something worse than Kelpies and Thunderbirds? Then we deal with it when it comes. We don't make deals with the devil. The devil, is that what they are? They're monsters, Captain. They eat people. That's devil enough for me. They also have families, children. They're trying to survive just like we are. You're not defending them. I'm trying to understand them. There's a difference. We reached the observation room, and I activated the microphone again. We're ready to negotiate. Excellent, the female Kelpie said. Then let us begin. What followed was 6 hours of revelation, of secrets spilled and knowledge shared. The Kelpies told us of the old world before humans, when monsters ruled and the earth was wild. They told us of the Great Sleep, when the old powers had retreated into the dark places, waiting for the world to change, for humanity to grow complacent. "Why now?" I asked. "Why are they waking now?" "Because you are ready," the Kelpie said. "Your kind has grown numerous, powerful, dangerous. You have weapons that can destroy worlds. You have forgotten the old pacts, the old ways of balance. It is time for the reckoning." The reckoning. The war between your kind and ours. It has happened before. It will happen again. And the outcome? Unknown. The future is not fixed, but if you fight alone, you will lose. Hence the bargain. Hence the bargain. They taught us rituals, words of binding, symbols of protection, methods of detecting and tracking supernatural entities. They taught us about the different kinds of monsters, their weaknesses, their habits. They gave us more in 6 hours than we had learned in decades of classified research. And in exchange, we promised to release them. "Not immediately," I stipulated. "We need time to verify what you've told us. If it's true, if it works, then you'll be returned to the lock. And if it is not true, then you remain here, indefinitely." "You drive a hard bargain, Captain." "I'm trying to save my species. I'll do whatever it takes." "As will we." The negotiations ended, and I was left with a head full of knowledge and a heart full of doubt. Had I done the right thing? Had I traded security for information that might be worthless? Or had I secured the key to humanity's survival? Only time would tell. And time, the Kelpies had assured me, was running out. Chapter 13. The Tests. The verification took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of testing the Kelpies' knowledge, of performing rituals, of seeking out other cryptids and attempting to apply what we had learned. Some of it worked. Some of it didn't. The Kelpies had given us truth mixed with fiction, gold mixed with dross, and it took time to sort one from the other. But enough of it was real. We tracked a chupacabra in Mexico using their methods, bound it without casualties. We identified a nest of Grootsiang in Belarus, evacuated the area before they could claim victims. We even made contact with something that called itself a naiad, a water spirit that had been poisoning a village's wells, and negotiated a truce that saved hundreds of lives. The knowledge was good. It was worth the price. "The deal stands," I told the Kelpies on the 22nd day. "You've proven your value. You'll be released." "Thank you, Captain," the female said, her voice warm with something that might have been gratitude. "You have been honorable." "Don't thank me yet. There are conditions." "Of course." "You return to the lock. You remain there. You don't hunt humans within 50 miles of any settlement. In exchange, we leave you alone. We don't hunt you, don't study you, don't interfere with your lives. And the others are kind. The same terms apply. Any Kelpie that agrees to the boundaries is safe. Any that doesn't, we hunt." "A truce, then. Not peace, but a cessation of hostilities." "It's the best I can offer." "It will do for now." They accepted. The 4 Kelpies, the family we had captured, agreed to the terms, and arrangements were made for their transport back to Loch Corwisk. A new monitoring system was installed, underwater sensors that would track their movements, ensure they kept to the agreement. "You're trusting them?" O'Connor asked, as we watched them being loaded onto a specialized aquatic transport. "I'm trusting that they want to survive," I said, "that they value their lives more than they value eating us. And if they break the agreement, then we hunt them down, and this time we don't capture, we kill." He nodded, satisfied. "Good." I watched the transport pull away, the Kelpies visible through the water-filled hold, and felt a strange emptiness. They were monsters, killers, predators, but they were also intelligent, ancient, a civilization that had existed before humanity. Letting them go felt like a failure, like a betrayal of the people they'd killed. But it was also hope. The first diplomatic contact between humans and cryptids. The first step toward a world where we didn't have to kill everything that threatened us. Maybe it would work. Maybe it wouldn't, but at least we were trying. Chapter 14. The Return. The release went smoothly. The Kelpies were returned to Loch Corruisk, to the deep water where they belonged. They sank beneath the surface without a backward glance, disappearing into the black depths, and the sensors showed them moving away, toward the center of the loch, toward their home. "They're keeping to the agreement," Williams reported, monitoring the tracking system. "Staying deep, staying away from the shores." "For now," I said. "You think they'll break it?" "I think they're patient. I think they'll wait for us to get complacent, to lower our guard, and then they'll test the boundaries." "So what do?" "We stay vigilant, we watch, and we make sure that when they test us, we're ready." I stayed at Facility 9 for another month, consulting on other captures, other negotiations. The world was changing, the old powers waking, and we were scrambling to keep up. Task Force Sigma 9 was expanded, renamed, given new resources and new mandates. We weren't just hunters anymore. We were diplomats, investigators, the bridge between the human world and the world of monsters. "You're being promoted," the colonel told me one day, calling me to his office. "Director of Cryptid Relations. You'll be coordinating negotiations with all captured or contacted entities." "That's a big job." "It's a necessary job. Someone has to do it." "Why me?" "Because you survived. Because you captured a Kelpie family and lived to talk about it. Because you understand them, McAllister. You don't just see them as threats. You see them as, well, if not people, then at least as beings." "Is that a good thing?" "It's a necessary thing. The world is changing. We can't just shoot everything that scares us. We need to learn to coexist, or at least to manage the conflicts." "And the Kelpies?" "They're the test case. If this works, if we can maintain the truce, then we have a model for dealing with other cryptids. If it fails..." "If it fails?" "Then we go back to killing, but at least we'll know we tried." I accepted the position, the promotion, the responsibility. I was tired of killing, tired of losing people, tired of the endless war against the darkness. If there was a chance for peace, for coexistence, I had to take it. "One more thing," the colonel said as I was leaving. "The Kelpies, they asked for you specifically. They want to continue the dialogue." "What dialogue?" "They want to teach you more. They say there's knowledge that only you can handle, that you're, what's the word, attuned." "Attuned to what?" "They didn't say, but they were insistent. They want you to come to the loch, alone." "That's not safe." "Nothing is safe anymore, McAllister. But if they have information that could help us, information that could save lives..." "I understand." "You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do." I went back to Scotland, to the loch, to the black water where the Kelpies waited. I stood on the shore, alone, unarmed, and waited for them to come. They rose from the water, all four of them in human form this time, beautiful and terrible. The female approached me, walking on water as if it were solid ground, until she stood before me, close enough to touch. "Captain," she said, smiling with teeth that were just a little too sharp, "we are pleased you came. You said you had knowledge for me." "We do, but first a warning." "What warning?" "The awakening is accelerating. The old powers are rising faster than we anticipated. The ones you call Pyasa and Thunderbird are only the beginning. There are others, older and stronger, that will soon walk the earth." "How many?" "Dozens, perhaps hundreds." "And what can we do?" "Survive, adapt, and prepare for the war that is coming." "What war?" "The war for dominance, your kind versus ours, the final conflict that will determine which species inherits the earth. There has to be another way. Perhaps, but it will require sacrifice. It will require change. It will require your kind to become something different." "Different how?" She reached out, touched my face, her fingers cold and wet and strangely gentle. "You will see, Captain, In time, you will see." She stepped back, merging with the water, and the 4 kelpies sank beneath the surface, leaving me alone on the shore, shivering in the cold, wondering what I had become. I walked back to the facility, to my new life, my new responsibilities. I was director of Cryptid Relations now, the bridge between worlds, the man who talked to monsters. And I knew, with a certainty that went beyond logic, that the hardest battles were still ahead. The Kelpies had taught us much, but the real test was yet to come. Chapter 15: New Threats. 6 months after the Kelpie release, the world had changed in ways we couldn't have predicted. The awakening they had warned us about was real, and it was accelerating. Reports of cryptid sightings had increased by 300%. Formerly dormant creatures were becoming active. New species were being discovered almost weekly. I sat in my office at Facility 9, surrounded by monitors showing global activity. Red dots marked confirmed sightings. Yellow dots marked suspected activity. The map looked like it had measles, the dots clustering around water sources, ancient sites, places of power that we were only beginning to understand. "Another one," William said, entering with a tablet. "South Africa this time, something in the Richtersveld region." "What kind of something?" "Reports are confused. Local tribes call it the Grootsiang, big snake with an elephant's head." "A Grootsiang, that's a new one." "Not according to the Kelpies. They mentioned it in one of the early interviews, said it was one of the oldest, one of the most dangerous." "How dangerous?" "Enough that they wouldn't go near its territory." I looked at the map, at the new red dot in South Africa. Another monster, another nightmare, another potential war. "Put together a team," I said. "I want to study this one before we make contact." "Study how?" "Remote observation. Drones, sensors, satellite imagery. I want to know everything about it before we even think about capture." "You think it can be captured?" "I think everything can be captured. The question is whether we can survive the attempt." He nodded, leaving to arrange the surveillance. I turned back to the map, to the red dots that were multiplying like a disease. The Kelpies had been a beginning, a test case. The Grootsiang would be the next step. And if we survived that, if we could capture or negotiate with something that even the Kelpies feared, then maybe we had a chance. Maybe. The phone rang and I answered it. "McAllister." "Captain," the voice on the other end was female, melodic, unmistakable. "We have been watching. The Grootsiang is moving." "Kelpie, how did you get this number?" "We have our ways. Listen to us, Captain. The Grootsiang is not like us. It is older, stronger, less reasonable. Do not try to capture it. Do not try to negotiate. Kill it if you can, or flee." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you were honorable, because you kept your word, because we do not want to see you die." "I appreciate the concern." "It is not concern. It is pragmatism. We need you alive, Captain. We need humans who can speak for your kind, who can bargain, who can understand." "And if I die?" "Then we find another, but we would prefer to keep the one we have." I smiled despite myself. "Thanks." "Be careful, Captain. The Grootsiang is a killer. It does not bargain, it does not compromise, it only destroys." "I'll keep that in mind." "See that you do." The line went dead, and I was alone again, staring at the map, at the red dot that marked the next battlefield. The Grootsiang. Big snake, elephant head. According to the Kelpies, one of the oldest, one of the most dangerous. "Let's see what you've got," I muttered, picking up the phone to call my team. The hunt was on. Chapter 16: The Mission. The flight to South Africa took 16 hours, long enough for me to review everything we knew about the Grootsiang, which wasn't much. The legends were sparse, a primordial creature, created by gods who had made it too strong, too cunning. They had split it into snakes and elephants, but one had escaped, hiding in the deep earth, hoarding gems, luring victims to their doom. The Wonder Hole, the briefing packet called it. A cavern that connected to the sea 40 miles away, filled with diamonds, guarded by the creature. "This is different from the Kelpies," O'Connor said, sitting beside me on the transport. "The Kelpies were predators, but they were natural, part of an ecosystem. This thing sounds more like a force of nature." "Or a god," I said. "The Kelpies said it was one of the oldest." "If it's that old, that powerful, how do we stop it?" "We don't know yet. That's why we're doing recon first." The Richtersveld was a desert, stark and beautiful, all red rock and blue sky. The Wonder Hole was located in a canyon, hidden from casual observation, accessible only by a treacherous path that had claimed the lives of dozens of treasure hunters over the decades. We set up camp 2 miles from the site, camouflaged, remote, safe enough for observation but close enough for quick response. "Drones are airborne," Williams reported, launching a swarm of small surveillance units, thermal and visual coverage of the canyon entrance. "Show me," I said. The feed came through, crystal clear despite the distance. The entrance to the Wonder Hole was a black maw in the rock, perhaps 20 feet across, descending into darkness. The air around it shimmered with heat, and I could see bones scattered at the entrance, animal mostly, but some that looked disturbingly human. "Anything moving?" "Negative on thermal, but look at this." He zoomed in on the canyon walls, and I saw them. Markings, ancient and weathered, carved into the stone. Symbols that looked like writing, like warnings. "Can we translate?" "Working on it. The local tribes might have records." "Get me a linguist, someone who knows the regional dialects." "Already on it." The linguist arrived 2 hours later, a local man named Joseph who had grown up hearing stories about the Grootsiang. He took one look at the images and went pale. "Those are warnings," he said, his voice trembling. "Ancient, from before the colonists came, they say, beware the great serpent, the eater of elephants, the hoarder of gems. They say it guards the way to the underworld." "The underworld." "The connection to the sea, the tunnel that goes deep, deep into the earth." "Have you seen it, the creature?" Joseph shook his head. "No one who sees it lives, but I've heard it. At night when the wind is right, it screams." "Screams?" "Like a dying elephant, like the earth itself is in pain." I looked at the dark entrance to the Wonder Hole, at the bones scattered around it, and felt a familiar chill. This was different from the Kelpies. This was older, stranger, more dangerous. "We need to see inside," I decided. "Deploy the crawler." The crawler was a small, tracked robot equipped with cameras, lights, and sensors. We launched it toward the hole, watching its feed as it descended into darkness. The walls were smooth, polished, as if by centuries of passing bodies. The temperature dropped as we went deeper, despite the desert heat above. And the air was thick, heavy, filled with a smell that made the technicians gag. "What is that?" I asked. "Decay," O'Connor said quietly. "Old decay, ancient." "How ancient?" "Centuries, maybe longer." The crawler continued down, meters passing, then hundreds of meters. The tunnel sloped steeply, descending into the earth at an angle that would have been impossible to navigate on foot. "Contact," Williams said suddenly. "Thermal signature ahead." "What is it?" "Big, very big. Temperature is ambient mostly, but with hot spots, biological activity." "Show me." The image came through and I saw it. The Grootsiang. It was coiled in a vast chamber, larger than a cathedral, its body filling the space like a living wall. The serpentine form was massive, 30 feet in diameter at the thickest point, scaled in black and gray that absorbed the crawler's lights. And the head. The head was wrong. It was elephantine, yes, but twisted, corrupted. The ears were too large, tattered like sails. The trunk was elongated, serpentine, lined with suckers like an octopus's tentacle. The tusks curved up, reaching toward the ceiling, each 120 feet long and sharp as scythes. And the eyes. There were too many of them clustered around the trunk, each one the size of a dinner plate, each one glowing with a faint luminescence. "Jesus Christ," someone whispered. "It's awake," William said, his voice tight. "It's looking at the crawler." "Pull back," I ordered. "Retract the crawler now." But it was too late. The Grootsiang moved, faster than something that size should be able to move, and its trunk whipped out, striking the crawler with enough force to shatter the camera. The feed went black. "It's coming," Joseph said, his voice barely audible. "It knows we're here." "How do you know?" "I can feel it. In the ground, it's moving." He was right. The sensors showed seismic activity, vibrations in the earth, something massive moving through tunnels that honeycombed the area. "It's not in the wonder hole anymore," William said, his face pale. It's everywhere. The whole area is tunnel network. It's been digging for centuries." "How big is it?" I demanded. "From the seismic data, I'd say 300 meters, maybe more." 300 meters. A creature nearly 1,000 feet long, coiled beneath our feet, watching us, hunting us. "Evacuate," I ordered. "Everyone back to the transport now." But the ground was already shaking, trembling, and I knew that we were too late. The Grootsiang had found us. Chapter 17. The Battle. The earth split open 50 yards from our camp, a fissure that ran the length of a football field, and from that fissure emerged the Grootsiang. Not all of it couldn't have fit, but enough. The head, the first 30 feet of its body, erupting from the ground like a demonic jack-in-the-box. It screamed that sound Joseph had described, like a dying elephant, like the earth in pain, and the force of it knocked us off our feet. I saw Williams thrown backward, his head striking a rock, blood spraying. I saw O'Connor scrambling for cover, for weapons, finding nothing that could help. "Move," I screamed, grabbing Joseph, dragging him toward the transport. "Everyone to the transport." The Grootsiang struck, its trunk lashing out, snatching one of the technicians. I didn't know his name, couldn't remember it, and lifting him into the air. The man screamed, high and thin, and then the Grootsiang's mouth opened, that elephantine jaw unhinging like a snake's, and it swallowed him whole. "God help us," Joseph prayed. "God isn't here," I said, "only us." We ran, scrambling over rocks through the fissure toward the transport that sat 100 yards away. The Grootsiang pursued, not quickly. It was too large for speed on the surface, but inexorably, crushing everything in its path. Trees, rocks, vehicles, it didn't matter. The creature rolled over them like a wave. "The transport," O'Connor shouted. "Get to the transport." We piled in, Joseph, O'Connor, me, and 2 others whose names I would never learn. The driver hit the accelerator before the doors were even closed, and we surged forward, bouncing over the rough terrain. Behind us, the Grootsiang screamed again, frustrated, and I saw it dive back into the earth, the fissure closing behind it, as if the ground itself was healing. "It's gone underground," O'Connor panted. "It's going to cut us off." "How do you know?" "It's smart, it's hunting. It knows where we're going." Then we changed direction. "Driver, head for the ridge, the high ground." The transport turned, climbing, and I prayed that I was right, that the Grootsiang couldn't follow where we were going. But the ground shook again, and ahead of us the ridge exploded upward, and the Grootsiang's head emerged, blocking our path. "Back, go back." The driver reversed, spinning, and the Grootsiang struck, its tusk raking the side of the transport, tearing through metal like paper. We were thrown sideways, the vehicle tipping, rolling, and I felt weightless for a moment before the world crashed back in, pain and noise and the taste of blood. I crawled from the wreckage, dazed, my arm broken, my vision swimming. Around me the others were moving or not moving. Joseph was dead, his neck broken, eyes staring at the sky. The driver was trapped, screaming, the vehicle crushing his legs. "O'Connor," I called. "O'Connor, where are you?" Here, he emerged from behind a boulder, blood on his face but alive. "Captain, we need to move." "The driver." "He's gone, look." The Grootsiang was upon us, its head towering above, trunk reaching down, and it plucked the driver from the wreckage, lifting him high, high, and then dropping him into that waiting mouth. "Run," I screamed. "Into the rocks, it can't follow into the rocks." We ran, O'Connor and I, the only survivors, scrambling into a maze of boulders that offered some protection from the creature's bulk. The Grootsiang tried to follow, its head wedging into crevices, tusks scraping stone, but it couldn't reach us. "We're trapped," O'Connor said. "For now. It'll wait, it has time." "So do we." We huddled in the rocks, 2 men against a monster that had existed since the world was young. We had no weapons, no food, no water, no hope. "What now?" O'Connor asked. "Now we think. There's always a way, always a weakness." The Kelpies said it was one of the oldest. "Old things have old weaknesses." "Like what?" I thought, my mind racing, my broken arm screaming with every heartbeat. The Grootsiang was a serpent, but also an elephant. It hoarded gems, according to legend. It was connected to water, to the sea. "Water," I said. "The connection to the sea, it uses water, needs it." So if we cut off its water, if we dry it out." "How do we do that? We're in a desert." "Not anymore, look." I pointed and O'Connor saw. The Grootsiang's passage had ruptured something, an underground spring, and water was bubbling up from the fissure it had created. The creature was drinking, replenishing itself, preparing for a long siege. "If we could contaminate the water," I said, "poison it." "With what? We have nothing." "Our blood, our sweat, our piss, anything that isn't pure water. The legends say these creatures are tied to the purity of their element." "That's folklore." "Folklore kept the Kelpies alive for centuries." O'Connor looked at me, then at the bubbling water, then at the massive head that blocked the only exit. "It's insane." "It's all we have." "Then let's do it." We crept closer to the water, staying in the shadows, staying out of sight. The Grootsiang was drinking, trunk curled into the spring, sucking up gallons at a time. It was distracted, vulnerable if only for a moment. "On 3, I whispered. "We run to the water, we contaminate it, we run back." "What if it sees us?" "Then we die. 1, 2, 3. We ran, breaking from cover, sprinting toward the spring. The Grootsiang saw us, its head turning, trunk whipping around, but we were close, so close. I reached the water first, dropped my pants and pissed into the spring, my stream mixing with the clear water. O'Connor followed, doing the same, and we laughed, hysterical, desperate, as we defiled the creature's water source. The Grootsiang screamed, a sound of rage and pain, and its trunk struck the ground between us, splitting rock, throwing us through the air. I hit hard, ribs cracking, but I rolled, came up running, and saw O'Connor doing the same. Back to the rocks. We made it barely, the Grootsiang's trunk snapping inches behind us, and we huddled in the crevice, panting, bleeding, laughing. "Did it work?" O'Connor gasped. "I don't know." But the Grootsiang was screaming, thrashing, its head whipping side to side, and I saw something I had never seen before. I saw it afraid. "It's working," I breathed. "The contamination, it's hurting it." "Not enough, we need more." "I know." I looked at my broken arm, at the blood that was still flowing, and made a decision. "Give me your knife," I said. "What?" "Your knife now." He handed it over, confused, and I used it to open my own arm, a deep gash that poured blood onto the ground. I collected it, cupping it in my hands, and then I ran. "Captain, what are you doing?" "Finishing it." I ran toward the spring, toward the thrashing Grootsiang, and threw my blood into the water. The creature saw me, its many eyes focusing, and its trunk whipped toward me. But I was ready. I dove, rolling under the trunk, and came up on the other side, closer to the spring, closer to the water. "Come on," I screamed. "Come and get me." The Grootsiang lunged, its mouth opening, and I threw myself backward into the spring, into the contaminated water. I felt the creature's teeth close around my leg, felt the pressure, the pain, and then it screamed, released me, recoiled as if burned. What? I lay in the water, my blood mixing with it, watching the Grootsiang thrash. "Human blood," O'Connor said, emerging from the rocks, understanding dawning. "That's the key. Human blood pollutes its water source. That's the weakness." "Then use it," I shouted. He didn't hesitate. He cut his own arm, let the blood flow, and threw it at the Grootsiang, splattering the creature's scales. Where the blood touched, the scales smoked, blackened, died. "It works," he cried. "Captain, it works." I dragged myself from the water, my leg mangled but attached, and grabbed a rock, a sharp one. I opened my arm again, coated the rock in blood, and threw it at the Grootsiang. It struck the creature's eye, and the eye burst like a bubble, black fluid spraying. The Grootsiang screamed, that terrible sound, and retreated, diving into the earth, fleeing. "It's running," O'Connor shouted. "Pursue, don't let it escape." We ran, limping, bleeding, following the trail of disturbed earth that marked the Grootsiang's passage. It was heading back to the Wonder Hole, to its lair, and we had to stop it before it could heal, before it could recover. "We need to seal the entrance," I said. "Trap it inside." "With what?" "Everything, rocks, vehicles, explosives, everything we have." We called for backup, for anyone who could hear, and miraculously, someone answered. A military unit, responding to our distress call, arriving with helicopters and heavy equipment. "The Wonder Hole," I screamed. "Seal it now." They didn't ask questions. They saw the fissure, the disturbed earth, the blood, and they acted. Explosives were deployed, tons of them, placed around the entrance to the cavern. "Fire!" The explosions shook the earth, and the Wonder Hole collapsed, tons of rock sealing the entrance, burying the Grootsiang in its own lair. "Is it dead?" someone asked. "No," I said, leaning on O'Connor, my leg useless, my arm broken, my blood still flowing. "But it's trapped, buried alive." "For how long?" "Forever if we're lucky." I collapsed, the adrenaline fading, the pain overwhelming. O'Connor caught me, lowered me to the ground, and I looked up at the blue sky, at the sun that was setting on the Richtersveld. "We did it," I whispered. "We survived," he corrected. "That's not the same thing." "It's enough." The medics arrived, and I let them work, let them stabilize me, let them prepare me for evacuation. I had fought the Grootsiang, one of the oldest monsters, and I had lived. I didn't know if it would stay buried. I didn't know if the blood contamination would hold, if the rocks would keep it contained. But for now, for this moment, we had won. And that was enough. Chapter 18, The Survivor. I spent 3 months in the hospital recovering from my injuries. The leg healed after surgery, after therapy, after pain that made me scream. The arm healed, the ribs healed, the internal damage repaired. But I was changed. I could feel it. The blood I had spilled, the contamination, it had marked me. I could sense water now, feel it moving underground, taste its purity or impurity. I was becoming something else, something tied to the elements. "You're not the first," the Kelpie's voice came to me one night in my dreams. "The old blood awakens in those who face the old powers. You are becoming, Captain, becoming what you were meant to be." What am I becoming? A guardian, a bridge, the one who walks between worlds. I don't want this. Want is irrelevant. You are chosen. You are marked. I woke sweating, my heart pounding. The dream faded, but the feeling remained. I was different. I was more. When I returned to duty, it was with new authority, new understanding. I had faced the Grootsiang and survived. I had learned its weakness, learned the power of human blood against the old powers. The Grootsiang is contained, the colonel told me, in my new office at Facility 9. Seismic monitoring shows no movement. It's either dead or dormant. Good. But there are others. The Kelpies warned us about dozens, and we've confirmed at least 10. The world is waking up, McAllister. The old powers are rising. Then we fight. With what? We can't bleed ourselves dry for every monster. We find other ways. The Grootsiang taught us something. These creatures have weaknesses, they have rules. We learn the rules, we use them. And if we can't, then we bleed. He nodded, accepting the truth. You're different now, since the Grootsiang. I know. Is it safe? I'm still me, Colonel, just more. Good enough. He left me to my work, and I sat in my office, surrounded by monitors and maps and the weight of responsibility. I was Captain McAllister, Director of Cryptid Relations, survivor of the Kelpie Capture and the Grootsiang battle. I was a monster hunter who had become something monstrous. And the war was just beginning. The Grootsiang slept, buried in its tomb of stone and blood. The Kelpies waited in their lock, patient and ancient. And I stood between them, between all of them, the bridge, the guardian, the one who walked between worlds. My name is Captain Marcus McAllister, and this is my story. This is how I survived. This is how I became. And this is how the war against the dark will be won. One monster at a time. One sacrifice at a time. Until the end, whatever end finally comes. I am ready. Are you? Thank you for listening to today's stories. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe, so you don't miss the stories yet to come.